With you, can you call the roll, please?
Counselor Bailey?
Here.
Counselor Carbone?
Here.
Counselor Clancy?
Here.
Counselor Jurek? Counselor Rhodes?
She's here, online.
Here.
Oh,
Hi.
yeah, Jane, well, from California, right?
We hear you.
We hear you. Welcome.
Counselor Timbrow?
She's on her way.
Okay. Counselor Zambrello? Here. Deputy Mayor Forrest? Here. Mayor Lesser?
Here.
Thank
Jane, can you hear us?
I can.
Can you see us?
Well, she
You
can
can
see
see
them.
them.
She can see
Well,
them.
I can see the table.
That's what we need to see. Thank you for joining. You're in California, right?
I am.
Well, we appreciate you joining. Thank you. So let's get started, and we have our building team up first, so
Okay,
the
good
floor is
evening,
yours.
everybody.
Thank you.
For those of you that don't know me, I'm Steve Letterillo.
And you got to speak right into the microphone.
Put it closer to Steve, yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm Steve Letterillo, and this is our full-time admin, Debbie Picard. She's here to make sure that I give you guys the right numbers. She's going to keep an eye on me tonight. Okay, so just a little overview of what we do in the building department. We are governed by Connecticut general statutes and follow the current adopted Connecticut state building codes. We receive and process all building permit applications, plans, and documents. We collect and calculate associated fees, verify contractor's license, and workers' comp insurance. We also take in all HDC permit applications, documentations. To date, well, yearly, we receive approximately 2,000 to 2,500 building permit applications. Let's see. We do accept basic building permit applications online and accept all building permit applications at the front desk. We review all permit building applications, plans, and associated documents to verify code compliancy and issue permits when complete. We meet and work regularly with architects, engineers, and homeowners regarding many building projects. We inspect all building projects, which include structural, electrical, mechanical, and plumbing for code compliancy as the job progresses, and we issue certificate of occupancy, certificate of approvals, and building code-related violations when needed. So that's sort of an overview of what we do. And as far as our budget goes, we have no line item increases this year. The only increases that we have are in salaries and wages. We have taken to date approved permits of 1,872. We're about 155 over from where we were last year at this time. We have, let me see, we have a valuation of almost $25.5 million at this point. We have an estimated fiscal year revenue of $400,000, and our valuation to date in revenue is $448,851, so almost $450,000. So we're over our estimated revenue for the fiscal year. That's it. I just have some projects that, was that it though? Yeah, I just have some projects that we're working on. I figure you guys would want to, some larger projects, I figure you guys would want to know one. I got it here. Thank you. Okay. We have a Starbucks, a 3-tenant Starbucks that's going on at 1862 Berlin Turnpike. That's a new construction. In there, we have a pre-permit application for Chase Bank, and we have a Wingstop that's a pending application that we're reviewing right now. We have Sup Life that's going in Gulf Brooks. We have Stonehouse Granite that's almost complete. We're getting to the point we're going to be issuing the TCO. Ocean State Job Lot, we have a solar job. It's for 540 rooftop panels that's going on. It's a large job. 164, 166 Main Street, we have a spa, doctor's office, and restaurant addition. Fresh Market is going on Weathersfield Shopping Center. Unlimited U LLC, it's a small building on 27 Town Line Road. They're doing a tenant fit out. And Children of America, 1199 Celestine Highway, they're doing like a trampoline, interior trampoline renovation thing. That's almost complete, and we're going to be issuing the certificate of occupancy for that soon. We also have preliminary plans for a Stack and Store, 8,000 square foot storage building that we're presently reviewing. Okay, single-family houses. We have a total of ongoing single-family houses that are being built at this time. Ongoing construction. 7. Yeah, 7. Yeah. Other than that, that's it. I don't know if You guys have any questions, or?
What was the last business you said?
The last business was 1199
Trampoline?
No, it was the one.
Celestine Highway. It's Children of America.
Or is it storage?
Oh, Stack and Store.
Stack and Store.
Stack and Store, it's a storage unit, it's going on the Berlin Turnpike. Yeah, almost across from Bolorama in that area, except down a little bit towards Weathersfield. Yeah,
Thank you, Steve.
you're welcome.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Debbie, being here. Open it up to councilors, questions? Councilor Clancy.
Can you tell me about Eternity? What's that?
Excuse me?
Eternity?
Eternity.
It's in your budget? Under, it says Eternity and then it says HDC website. I wasn't aware the HDC had a website.
Where are you reading from?
On page C87?
Under travel, training, and dues.
Yeah.
Support services, maybe?
On page
I think
7?
it's like non-existent.
87, C87. C,
Account
letter
number
C, 87.
52212, travel, training, and dues.
I think it's actually support
It's actually support
services.
Oh, support? Oh, well,
52225.
Oh, it's the thing that it's above?
above it? Oh.
Okay.
Oh, I think that was taken out.
Yeah.
That's something they had years
Yeah.
ago, we don't have it now.
Oh.
So it's not really in the budget, there's no dollar.
Yeah, that was removed. Yeah, but it still states what yeah. the
Okay,
report was
just
taken out.
curious.
Yeah, it was an older website that wasn't really used that much.
Okay, thank you.
It's a cool name.
No, it's fascinating, that's why I was curious.
Thank you,
It's in the
Sunita.
budget for eternity, apparently.
That was a good one, Matt.
I have 2 young kids.
I liked it. That was good.
Here all week.
Yeah, right, I'm trying to be right.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Carbone.
Yes, thank you. So I'm just looking at the proposed budget for the salaries for your assisted building official. It's actually decreased by,
Yeah, the original person that we had, he left, he got another job, so we ended up hiring somebody at a lower rate.
okay, perfect. So you still, so it's not going to impact the overtime piece of it then? Okay.
No.
All right. Thank you.
Councilor Carbone, anything else?
No, I'm good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other, Deputy Mayor Forrest?
Thanks. This question I think is to Mike.
You gotta bring it.
Where will we find the revenue section of the building department in the budget? Is that in the first few revenue pages in the blue?
Good evening, Mike O'Neill, Director of Finance. The blue tab at the front of the black binder, you'll see the blue barred report, 4 pages. First 2 pages are revenue, next 2 pages are expenditures. And that has some history as well as the proposed budget amount. In particular, you're looking for
4120.
building permits, you'll find those.
Yeah, under licenses and permits, building department, got it.
41203?
Oh, yeah, licenses and fees. Yep, 41203, under licenses and permits,
And what
building
did-
department.
I see some older numbers here. What did we budget for this fiscal year for that? Is that the 421,884?
Is that what you made?
Yes,
Okay. And where are we right now?
We are at 448,857. We do it a little bit differently than finance does. We calculate it after we issue the building, after we issue the application, so we calculate it as building permits. And I think we don't do it as building permit applications. So our might be a little.
So it's not like a cash basis, it's a accrual basis? Is that?
It's based on the estimated cost of.
Can you give her the
application.
microphone? We can hear you, but anybody watching on TV?
It's basically the reports we have, our permits issued, it's applications that are issued. When we do the state fee, it's based on permits issued, so all our reports are that. Rebecca does the actual deposit of cash that comes in,
Applications.
the applications.
So when you gave the council that number, is that actual cash that the town's received? Or is that a different number?
That's actual cash that we receive, but they're for approved building permits. We still have, it's close to what we have for permit applications. It's just that if a permit comes in for like electric service, we count it after we approve it. I don't know if that makes sense.
would it be fair to say that you're getting that information from the building permit system?
Yes.
Okay. So
So when do you,
Finance's number is
Yeah.
cash in the bank.
right,
So it's timing differences.
what is the timing
Largely.
difference between their number and your number?
I don't know,
30 days?
because I don't study Steve's system, and I'm sure he doesn't study my system, but
It can be very different for big projects in particular. Like if there's departments that can't sign off, and you've taken in, say, $100,000, it might not get issued for 2 months because of the back and forth of departments.
that cash would be in the bank.
But you've gotten, the cash is in. But in our report, it won't reflect it until it becomes a permit.
At a more general level, the difference between the two systems and there's accrual or cash and accrual rate, is that something generally, like from a policy standpoint, because we're working on financial policy coming up in the next few months, that we should be looking at as far as like controls or consistency or anything like that, or no, actually the system that we have is exactly the way it should be and like that?
No, generally speaking, yeah, those are very good questions. And it's just a matter of, or we're looking at if you want to use policies to address controls, right? And make sure there's adequate internal controls.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of where you would put forth effort to make changes. Would it be, it's not an insignificant system. It's handling, $400,000 to $600,000 a year, but it's very different from our tax and billing system, which is handling, almost $100 million a year.
Okay. So I guess when we're looking at what we expect for, I guess, in a particular fiscal year, cash in the bank, what we're looking at revenues, and then balancing those out with the rest of it. What are our expectations for this fiscal year for the amount of cash, maybe not accrual, but cash that we can expect that will come in from the building department?
I think it's probably pretty close, I would think. I would think that it's pretty close to that. So I would say that we're probably over our estimated revenue.
You're getting the cash before our system reflects it. So there's nothing in our system that you haven't gotten. There's things that have come in as cash that we may not yet count in the same month, say with the money coming in. But it's always in before our figures. It's never the other way around.
Between either system, what's the best way for us to be able to estimate what we would be looking at for revenue from that department?
Would be from finance. And let me speak broadly about this type of revenue.
Yeah.
And this has come up in the past at this time of year. And a couple of years ago, I kind of wrote up an explanation about the approach that finance takes towards budgeting in these accounts. And it's this. If you look at all of our revenues, 90-something% of it is tax revenue, be it current taxes or delinquent taxes, and state aid also, which is, we always know that number. All those other accounts, let me just estimate, say it's 5% of total revenues. Our approach when we budget those accounts is to avoid having shortfalls. And from a budgeting standpoint, and what we do, which is different from what you do, those accounts are relatively unimportant to us in terms of we want to be careful not to over budget in those accounts, because they really don't. The way we look at them when we get down to the end here is you got to remember the way we budget revenue affects the mill rate, right? And it's if we got a whole significant increase in state aid, that's less taxes that need to be raised. Again, so all those other accounts are quite insignificant when you look at the tax levy and state aid combined.
Okay.
So what we want to avoid with those is shortfalls. And what we've done is in the recent years, the council has also budgeted the use to fund balance, right? And we've gotten to the end of the year, and because the approach that management takes is relatively conservative, we've not used all that fund balance, and it's available again, to either, we've built it up above the 10%, and it's available in future years to use to keep the mill rate down.
I understand. Is there an estimate number that you could get us, though, for that particular line item?
Yes, what we do at this point in the year is we'll take a 3-year history
Yeah.
by month, and we kind of look, and so for the current year, the last 3 months are not there, right? But we've got the first 9 months, and we kind of look at the history of the last 3 months over the previous years, and then this year. And we've done that. We did that a month and a half or 2 months ago, and we can do it again. It's pretty easy to do.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Mike,
Other council?
yeah, sorry, Mike, before you leave the podium, I'm sorry, I just want to, I'm sorry, go back up. I just have a question about the revenue page. So when it says it's proposed, and this is just, I just want to be clear. So for 24, 25, you're estimating that they'll bring in 400,000? Is that why, based on what you just said, is that why you're estimating at a lower rate than what's actual?
Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's a good question. Any other council questions or comments? I just have one, Steve, and it's about permits. I think you said we have 155 more permits this year than last year. It seems like a big increase. Can you kind of explain why, or?
It seems like permits have been increasing little by little every year, and I think it might have to do with maybe the warmer winters.
Okay.
The building period is extended a little bit more than it used to be. Winters seem to be warmer, more rain and snow, so it seems like the construction end of things continue on more so than prior years. So I think that's maybe the reason.
We've seen a gradual increase over the last few years. Is that what you're saying? 155 seems like a fair number, good size
Yeah,
number.
it seemed, last year we increased a little bit also.
Okay,
Yeah, we've
good.
seen an increase, like I said, and I think that will be able to do it.
A lot of it is, for one, if there's snow on the ground. If there's snow on the ground, people aren't doing things
Yeah.
on the ground,
Yeah.
they're not. Or the same with roofs, we didn't have much snow, so it never slowed down for us. It didn't slow down like it used to, so that I could get caught up.
I think that's good from our perspective, maybe not as good from your
Yeah,
perspective.
we used to slow down a little bit for winters, we don't have that anymore.
Yeah,
It's just
got it.
strict.
Because of the mild winters, and a lot has to do with the snow on the ground. We have people in the winter doing decks, but that year that we had like 3 feet of snow because it never stopped.
Yeah.
It slowed down a lot.
Yeah, but not with the warmer winters. Got it. Okay, if there's no other council comments or questions, I'm going to say thank you, appreciate all you do, and we're going to call
Thank
the
you.
next group up, and I think that's the assessors group. So, Walter. Thank you, Steve, thank you. Is it on? No?
It says C-53.
Batteries?
It says it right here,
C-53?
53. Girl, get your glasses on, 53.
Jane, can you hear okay?
Kenny, I can hear you really clearly. If everybody else can just make sure to move their mic when they're speaking. I'm sort of missing bits and pieces of questions. I just don't want to ask the same question or miss an important piece of information.
And can you hear the presenters, or?
Same thing. When they're closer to the mic, I can hear them fine. When they're kind of all over, it's a little bit trickier, so.
Got it, thank you.
Yep.
Technical.
No, that sounds good. Go ahead, Walter, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Walter Topliff. I'm the assessor here in the town of Weathersfield. And my job is to assess property for taxation, real estate, business, personal property, and motor vehicles. And the biggest thing we have going right now is the 2024 revaluation. And I just want to say that we've extended the deadline for your data mailers to May 8th. If you haven't gotten them in, please do so. We've received about a third of them. We mailed out 9,779, and we got about a third of them in, and out of that third, we've processed about a half of those. So that's where we are with those, but I would like to put that out. Does anybody have any questions on revaluation? You know, we're in the beginning stages. We're going to be valuing property for October 1st, 2024. We are going to be expected to send out valuation notices the first or second week of November. And then the revaluation company will be handling taxpayer inquiries about their individual values on the homes. I am personally going to be meeting with all the commercial property owners in town and handling their concerns with their values.
Are you going to go through the budget after that? And do you guys want any questions about revaluation process?
Like talking about the budget.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about the budget. I mean, my budget, the biggest, it's relatively flat. There was a couple additions this year. We're paying for this program called Accurate. It's $1,400 a year. We're able to find people. People disappear, and we need to know where they are so we can send them assessor information, business personal property, businesses. So that was $1,400. We're in the budget this year, we have something called Mobile Assessor, MA Lite. That's tablets that allow us to collect data in the field. So we don't have to write it down while we're out there, come back, key it, we can key it right in the field. We're able to take an updated picture, it'll upload right away. It's going to make us more efficient in the office. And the third increase that I have is the motor vehicle pricing, J.D. Power, the old NADA valuation books. They keep raising the price every year. And so that went up 15-20% this year. So those are my increases.
But your overall budget is basically flat.
It's up a little bit, mostly because of the mobile assessor, which was $8,000, $8,600.
I'm going to open up to council question, Deputy Mayor Forrest.
Sorry, Jane. It looks, I see the almost 11.8, which is a 26% increase in non-personal. Is that made up of that data cloud storage, the dues, office supplies, Accurate? Is that where that comes from?
Yes.
Okay. Next, many times we have, as an assessor, like we have audits, right, of different areas. Can you tell us, like, companies and so forth, can you tell us about where you think our audits should be, and if they're at where they should be, or if you think we should be doing more audits in order to keep people honest, generate more revenue, et cetera, et cetera?
We do have an active personal property audit program. We are going to be implementing additional time resources to this endeavor. As far as full audits go, with what we budgeted for the year, how many audits we're going to do, I don't think we need to be any more aggressive in that manner, but we're going to be pursuing other avenues in terms of, I have roughly 25 to 30% of the businesses in town that do not file a personal property declaration.
Yeah.
And the issue with that is we don't know what to estimate for their assessments. So we might be estimating really low. So we're actively trying to put together a program, working with another couple towns to estimate what certain businesses, like small office under 2,000 square feet, let's say, if we pick an assessment average per square foot, then we can apply that to everybody that would fall into that category and have a more accurate assessment for all those people who don't file.
And is there a budgetary support that you need for that?
Not at the moment.
And where do I find the is there a place in the budget that's specifically for like audit support, time, hours?
Yes, under professional services, there's $7,500 in the budget for that.
Personal property
C53?
audits. No, yeah.
And what's the line item?
Personal services, 52220.
5222220. Okay, thank you very much.
Does that conclude your?
It does.
Thank you. Mr.
Try to go
Deputy
as fast as possible.
That's good. Council Carbone?
Thank you. So you mentioned Accurate was $1,400 a month, roughly?
No, that's annually.
Oh, it's annually, good, okay.
$1,400
When you were speaking, I
annually.
think you said month, and I was like, it is not reflected in the budget. Okay,
No.
thank you.
Anything else, Councilor Carbone?
Nope, I'm good.
Thank you. Councilor Zambrello?
Thank you. I just had a question about, so we've got a salary increase here, but there's a significant decrease in medical benefits. And it looks like last year was an outlier in terms of the proposed budget being approved at about 113,000 when the year before actual was 53. So I'm just wondering where that's coming from. Why the jump last year and then now we're lowering the budget quite a bit there?
That's actually a question for Mike.
Okay, thank you.
Mike O'Neill, Director of Finance. I suspect what it was, without knowing for sure, is Walter's position is vacant, and when we budget vacant positions, we assume a family level of coverage, which is the highest level.
I see.
Just so that if that materializes, there's sufficient budget for that. That's why we approach it that way.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Councilor Zambrello. Anything else? Hearing none. Walter, thank you very much. We appreciate all you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck with the revaluation.
I'm sure no
I'm sure you'll hear more as we go
I
along.
know we will. It's a real important thing and a big undertaking. Thank you. Marlene, I think you're up next. Thank you. The tax collector?
Good evening. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Marlene Desjardins. I'm the tax collector. My budget pretty much stays the same. The only difference that really comes into play is the cost to mail out the bills goes up each year a little bit, as the provider does. And we've had a little bit of increase in personnel due to union contracts.
Is that due to what? What was that due to?
The
Contract.
union contracts.
Union contract.
That was short and sweet. Thank you, Marlene. Counselor questions?
Pension.
We may need a minute to shuffle through to look at some of the stuff. Yes, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
First thing that stands out is the last sentence, I guess you might say. It looks on personnel increase, looks like about, just shy, of course, of 12%. Help me understand the differential between the 12% there, but it's union contract. So I'm feeling like it wasn't a one-year boost of 12% in the union contract. Maybe that's for Mike? When we sort of look at union contracts, it's like, feels more like 4, 5, 6, whatever.
So, Mike O'Neill,
Yeah.
Director of Finance. If I may, I have some materials to hand out, which will include something that the Deputy Mayor had asked for last week, which I think will help with this, which
Sounds
is...
like it's on point.
Which is like, so it'll break down at 12%, and you'll be able to see what's driving that, whether it's salaries or benefits by line item.
Thank you, Mike.
Oh, I think I've seen one of these before.
Councilor Gross, we will email that to you after the meeting.
Mike, do you want to explain it a little bit? Yeah, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm up at the end tonight. I'm sure everyone will be dying to hear from me at that point.
We're excited.
And I can go through all of this then, but if, to the question at hand, if you turn to the second page, the second and third page, and it's, I think your copies are two-sided, is just a breakdown of the personnel costs. So about halfway down that first page 2, you'll see tax collector.
Yep.
You'll see a small section there. The total of that section increase is 11.79%. I think that's what the deputy mayor was questioning. You can look up above and see, in this case, it looks like health insurance, the change in health insurance is driving that 11% increase, because salaries are only going up by 4.89%.
Yep. So obviously, those like 4 to 5 numbers are what you would expect, right? From,
Yeah.
any type of sort of a union contract discussion.
So we went into this,
What's the 105%? Because even, like, we were sort of, even if it's, I get that it's health, but like aggregately at like 12%, which was our average, this is 105, so.
so we see funny things in small departments.
Sure.
Because if someone takes a waiver, we pay them $2,000, $3,000, and that's the entire cost for that employee for the year. If that changes in the next year and they take coverage, it could be $20,000. So without being too specific, I think I know who the person is, but that's not really important here.
Sure.
That's,
A major shift in an individual's.
yes, in a small department, I mean, it's a department with only two full-time employees who are entitled to benefits.
This is very helpful. Thank you for breaking it down. Now I don't have to ask the same question like 13 times. Appreciate it. That's all I have. Thanks, Mayor.
Anybody else? Quick question from me, Marlene, and this may be you or this may be to Mike. Tax collection rate. So we budget a rate, I think typically 98, 99%. Do you know where we are and how we've been doing on our collections?
I pulled the number as of today with everything we posted.
You thought I might ask that, right?
We're at 99.7.
99.7, which is good, right?
Yeah.
Does that go out another number?
Everybody paid their taxes.
Does it go out after that? Is it 99.7 something?
0.75.
It's 5? Okay. Makes a big deal when you're talking about a
And that's
grand
what-
list of X billions of dollars.
And that's where we're collecting now. Is that where we're budgeting as well? Because we always,
It's on the sheet.
is it on the,
I saw it. Yeah,
maybe you can point me to it. I didn't see it right away, Mike. On the revenue, yeah.
Mike O'Neill, Director of
Yeah.
Finance.
And for all of, yeah,
On the first of those 4 blue bar pages,
yeah.
upper right-hand corner, tax collection rate 99.17%.
And we're actually collecting a little bit higher rate right now. Okay, good. That's all I have. One more time, any counselors? No? Okay. Marlene, thank you. Appreciate it. I believe we have Sally next. Yeah, physical services, Sally?
Seventh inning stretch? Yes.
We're moving right along, so thank you.
Maybe after this one, for sure. This is gonna be a long one.
Yeah. So you all have copies of the presentation that Sally's going to be provided at your space. We are going to drop the screen for you. Jane, I believe it was emailed to you, so you have it. So I'm just going to ask Sally to say I'm now moving to slide 2, slide 3 as we move through so you can follow along.
And I like the graphics, you know, it's scary.
You're ahead of me.
Thank you, but yeah.
Come on, why are you stealing her thunder?
I just wanted to give her credit. I just wanted to give her credit.
Good evening, Sally Katz, Director of Physical Services, Town Council members and Town Manager. Thank you for giving me the time to talk with you about physical services and how the budget affects our work. Throughout this presentation, you will see some Peanuts comic strip characters. They're not there just to fill the blanks, but because the characters in Peanuts, all in their own way, show optimism. And that's what we do in the Division of Physical Services. We know that we're going to run into challenges day after day, kind of sort of like Lucy grabbing the football away from Charlie Brown. Like Charlie Brown, we come back day after day, hopeful and optimistic, that we can make a positive change for Weathersfield. In order to give you context and meaning behind our budget request, you need to truly know and understand who we are and all that we do. So, second slide. Quickly, for all of you who may not know, Public Works employees are first responders, and we are federally recognized as such. They are most often the first people on the scene and the last people to leave. And we are part of the National Incident Management System that lists Public Works alongside fire and police as part of the first responder group. Slide 3. Physical Services for Weathersfield does have multiple divisions, and I will give you a little bit of a preview of each. But this is all the divisions that make up Physical Services. Slide 4. On each slide, here for the Highway Division, you'll see a number. Here, it's number 11. That is the total number of staff members, including the working supervisor, who are a part of that group and who perform the activities listed below. This number is a best-case scenario where and when every employee is at work. For any of you who are responsible for staffing, you know that on any given day, there are people out on vacation, sick, bereavement, personal days, jury duty, etc. The day other than a snowstorm, when every single person is at work, is a really good day. 11 people who fill potholes, replace failing drainage piping, replace catch basins, work with the MDC. These are the stewards of our transportation system. And a important point, there are 104.6 miles of paved town roads in a 13 square mile town. That's a lot. And yet these people are dedicated and come to work every day to make sure that people can traverse those roads safely. Slide 5. Parks and Grounds. 14 people who manage over 560 acres of town property, which include parks, grounds, landscaping around 25 town-owned buildings and schools, 38 fields, and numerous grass islands throughout town, trash collection throughout town. How the town uses outdoor spaces has changed over the years. For example, in years past, 1 or 2 schools were only used during the summer. So the staff would cut down on the number of times those areas were mowed or landscaping done in order to give those staff members the opportunity to work on fields. This year, all but 2 of the schools are being used for part or throughout the summer. And so the crews have to stay maintaining those grounds. It's a zero-sum game where we have to pull staff from one group to the next. And when the facilities are being used more and more, that becomes more difficult. Slide 5. I am often asked, why don't our fields look like our surrounding towns? The answer is that they could, but we don't have the resources, the personnel, or the equipment of other towns. And as you can see from this slide, people most often ask me about Glastonbury. Why don't we look like Glastonbury? Glastonbury has 15 full-time employees, where we have 14. They have 12 seasonal employees, where we have at most 5 to 7. We maintain 560 acres, 136 different public spaces. They have 250 acres to maintain. We have 38 athletic fields, and if anyone wants to know, I do have a list of all of those fields with me. Yes, they have 50, but look at the budget. Our budget is almost $100,000 less than theirs. And our people and our equipment is less. And so if you go down the line to Rocky Hill and to Newington, you will see that we do compare, we do look at other towns, but we can't keep up when you look and compare us to other towns. So the next question is, what would it take to bring us up? And this is slide 7. How to raise the quality level of our fields? The answer is twofold: staff and equipment. This slide shows the addition of up to 5 staff members and needed equipment. From March to October, the staff members would be dedicated to the daily maintenance, grooming, and project work on fields. Examples of their daily activities are listed on the slide. The initial costs for equipment are also shown, with an average lifespan of our equipment for 10 to 15 years. And we've based these costs on current rates. Slide 8, tree. The current staff is only 2 people responsible for everything listed on this slide. They're dedicated and hardworking, but they need help. One way to supplement the tree group is by utilizing the field FTEs that I showed on the previous slide, because their main work for parks would be from March through October. But from November through February, any FTE would work with the tree department. They would assist with tree removals, storm cleanup, brush removal, sightline improvement, and waterway management cleanout. Waterway management is a task that Physical Services has now undertaken the responsibility for from the engineering department.
He did say that yesterday.
He did?
He did, he gave you credit. Derek.
No.
Derek said he was doing.
We work together, we're a team.
Yep.
Slide 9, and I'll go through these. We're extremely fortunate to have 5 mechanics who are continuously learning about equipment and vehicles as the equipment and vehicles are becoming technologically more advanced every day. The vast majority of repairs on our equipment and vehicles is performed in-house. We work on everything from small equipment like saws and weed whackers to our fleet of trucks, boats, PD and fire vehicles, and heavy construction equipment. Slide 10. Our trades division. Our trades division of 5 people in 5 different trades, you can do the math, it's 5 people for all of town. Our trades provide essential services to keep the town buildings operating. Their chief obstacles are aging equipment in the buildings. We know that we have aging HVAC, heating, ventilating, and air conditioning equipment in many of our buildings. The trade staff work to constantly and consistently make improvements, such as changing out indoor lighting to LEDs, building and repairing walkways, doors, walls, so that an outside vendor is not needed to do this work. The trade staff also prepare and then operate the 2 pools at Millwoods and Willard throughout the summer. Slide 11. We do operate the transfer station, as many of you know and have been there. We have 2 part-time staff. They are there to help residents understand and to navigate through the transfer station. Slide 12. School custodians. There are 38 custodians. There's been a lot of talk and reaction about the age and condition of our schools. Our custodians do their best to clean and make the school buildings safe for students, faculty, and staff to use. In a recent observation by Colliers, when they reviewed the schools for the previous referendum, they noted that the buildings are old, but they also noted that the buildings are clean. As previously noted, the schools are used during the day for educational purposes, but then revert to community use buildings well into the evening. Activities include park and rec programs, youth sports, parent-teacher organization meetings and events, school district events, lifelong learning activities, and multiple uses by outside groups. Our schools are used from 7 in the morning till 11 p.m., sometimes midnight, all the time, 12 months out of the year. This almost constant use puts wear and tear on the buildings, along with increased uses in supplies such as paper towels, hand soap, cleaning products. School trades divisions. Similar to the town, we employ 5 trades. They have the unenviable task of maintaining the schools, building systems. As noted, the schools are aging, so they are busy making repairs to plumbing, mechanical, electrical systems, along with maintaining carpentry work on doors, floors, keys. We also employ 1 full-time custodial manager who is the key contact for the custodians and for the tradespeople in the schools. Juan Salazar and I am his backup. He is the person who directly supervises and connects with the head custodians. He also interfaces with the principals and the superintendent on a regular basis. Keeping the kids safe is always our first priority, and it is something I'm very proud that they do very, very well. Slide 14, that's the administrative staff, and I don't want to our administrative staff oversees all the time recording, chargebacks, administration of contracts, bill paying, customer service, and we get a lot of calls, and any other activity as it pertains to physical services. They are a dedicated crew. We have 2 full-time administrative assistants and a part-time clerk who helps to get all of the purchase orders, purchase requisitions, state bid contracts, RFPs, and we work very closely with finance to make sure that we are kept up to date and that no late charges are assessed for any of our administrative tasks. So, looking ahead, physical services staff, I want to go back a little bit. Last year, we were funded to hire a new mason. That gave us a group of 2 people. Here's what has been done. In fiscal year 2023, when we had the new mason, we started to undertake project work, such as the replacement of the Webb School stairs and walks. We had gotten a price from a vendor of $55,000. We did it completely. We saved, sorry, there's a typo there. We saved $21,000. That was a huge job if you've ever driven around Webb School. We've taken over the catch basin replacement work. A vendor would charge $4,000. Our costs are less than $2,000 to do this work. In the fall, during the fall paving program, we worked on 37 basins and saved the town $26,000 over what a vendor would have charged. We're currently into the spring paving program. We're ahead of the paving vendor, working on 18 basins for cost savings of over $14,000. The staff masons also completed the 2 large chimneys repointing at the old academy where that roofing project is currently ongoing. The vendor estimate was over $55,000. Again, we've done it for $2,327. So funding us, funding the staff, funding the equipment for the staff to do this work has proven to be a cost savings for the town. Slide 16. Our budget drivers, our budget is mainly a maintenance budget. Increases are predominantly contractually driven, and they also are due to supply costs. You will see that the largest, as part of the budget, the largest increase is a state unfunded mandate for indoor air quality testing in the schools. The state has told towns, and the town manager also knows about this, that every year we are to perform air testing in each of the schools. However, the testing has to be done by a qualified engineer or air tester vendor. We also have to do once every 5 years an HVAC component survey of that. It is currently an unfunded mandate, and so in preparation for it, we did go out to get pricing. If we did go to an outside vendor, the pricing came in at over $200,000. But we added it to the budget, obviously, in case we need to do this. We have in town buildings, not the schools, but town hall, physical services, the library, we have contracted vendor custodial services. That contract will be increasing $7,300. There's increases in trash, bulky waste removal, Pool chemicals. The pools are slated to be open later this year by a couple of weeks. Elongated schedules call for additional chemicals. There's also been an increase in grass seed and landscaping materials. Previous years, we had always put our roof leak response and maintenance contract in our CIP. This year, it really is an operating expense, and that we did incorporate it into our operating budget. We also want to move toward, previously, we had not used treated salt during our winter operations. After talking with a lot of different towns, by going to pre-treated salt, we would be able to do a pre-treat of the roads. This would also allow us to use less product throughout the winter, which is therefore more environmental, has less environmental impact. One of the biggest ones is because we have been taking on additional work with the mason, the waterways, we've been renting equipment. And the most important is the mini excavator. We do have it in CNEF. This rental, this has been a workhorse for us. We have used this from everywhere from on the ball field to fix a problem to in the roads. Every time we go out to replace sidewalk slabs, it has really been an extremely important piece of equipment that has allowed us to increase the volume of our work. But if we're not funded for it, then we need to rent it. CNEF requests, obviously, we know we're not going to get everything, but we wanted to make sure. It is vital, we feel it's vital that we go back onto a vehicle replacement schedule. We had one, and then that got curtailed over the past few years. Most importantly, and unfortunately, vehicles, as you know, have been going up in price. Right now, we have a vacancy in our HVAC position, and it's kind of good because right now we do not have a vehicle for that person. So we are also looking to supplement that. Previously, we brought to you that we wanted to pursue a grant through the Clean Energy, through the state of Connecticut, and we have applied for that grant. That would go toward the purchase of a dump truck. Our electrician, Jared, is phenomenal, and he has done an incredible amount of work throughout town on street lights, on both the overhead Cobra type of lights and on the decorative lights, along with every other light in town. But the truck that he uses when he needs to work on a street light is not, he would have to use the tree truck, and it's just too large, and because of the size of it, we literally have to park it across the street from where he needs to work and swing the arm over, which can be dangerous and would need traffic control. We really do need to outfit him with the appropriate vehicle. Our mowers are over 20 years old and are breaking down rather consistently. The mini excavator, as I described in the previous slide. We also, again, want to be able to do more of the paving work and work to be able to fill potholes, being able to process hot material, summer material, and be able to do the type of paving that would allow us to not use a vendor on some of the smaller jobs or jobs that are not as deep. We're not talking about taking over the paving program, but we need to do less deep repairs that we would be able to do that. And we did, thank you, last year, we had a Ventrec mower, which we've been using throughout town. However, our second Jeep is also dying, and we have looked at an RTV vehicle, which we would be able to use for general maintenance and also sidewalk snow plowing, so that we protect the grounds in addition to the sidewalks.
Which one is that, Sally?
That would be a Gator, that would be the last one, the RTV.
Oh, okay, I see, sorry.
Our CIP requests that we had provided to the committee were to continue to replace sections of the high crest roofing system, furniture replacements in classrooms. We want to continue to replace sidewalks at the schools. replacing floor, and when I say replace sidewalks, because we had taken over the sidewalk program in the middle of the fiscal year, we didn't have exact data on what the materials would cost per linear feet and how much linear feet we would need. So because we had to put in the CIP in January, we put a number in for that. Town buildings, we do have, same thing with masonry repairs. Speaking with Mike, because we needed to evaluate the extent of the masonry, we put a number into CIP, using that data from this year to be able to actually use a masonry line item in next year's budget. The physical services roof is also aging. We have patched the patches a number of times. And then we also want to fund engineering services. The town hall chiller, for those of you who are not attuned to HVAC systems, the chiller is what provides basically air conditioning throughout the town hall and part of the library. That unit was not replaced when the renovation of this building was done in 2006 to 8. And it is currently over 30 years old and needs to be replaced. So looking ahead, physical services staff will continue to show you the future and future councils, our ability to perform our current scope of work. While we do want to expand services we performed for the benefit of the town. We welcome that chance to take on more work. An example of this would be if we were able to, in the future, purchase a paving box, which would give us the opportunity for minor depth road resurfacing and repairs. We believe that we have proven that when the department is at an appropriate staffing level and given the appropriate equipment, that we take on more work at a lower cost to the town. And thank you, and Q&A.
Sally, thank you for that presentation. The detail was amazing. I know it took a lot of effort and time to put that presentation together. You might have raised the bar for our other presenters, but thank you, and love the graphics, and I love your emphasis on positivity and also the detail that you gave all of us, because there's a lot going on. And counselors, this is one of our biggest budget items. I think it's roughly 16 million. I mean, it's a big item, and there's a lot that Sally and her department do. So I'm going to open it up for questions now. Councilor Bailey.
I just have a quick one. The 180,000 for the bodies, that's with installation and to be done elsewhere?
Yes.
All the lines, all the...
Councilor Bailey, you have the floor.
No, I'm good, thank you.
Further council questions? Anyone?
No, go ahead, Rosemary. Go ahead.
Are you?
You're the mayor, you decide.
No, did you raise your hand?
Yeah,
Right
I
to
think
left?
Councilor Carbone had it first, to be honest with you.
Okay.
That's fine.
Councilor Carbone.
You never know, I might ask a question that you're thinking.
Likely you
You
will.
never know. So thank you so much, Shelley. This really was great, and I do appreciate the Snoopy stuff. I think it's adorable, but neither here nor there. So first of all, I just wanted to, I really do appreciate you putting the information on about the Mason, because that was something that I know, and I'm going to shout out to Tom over here, who is really passionate about doing things in-house, trying to save the town money. And thanks to this council, we got that funded for you, and it's for you to show that, I really do appreciate that, because that's great, and I'm glad that's working out.
Absolutely.
But that also gives us momentum for the next, well, what else can we save? What else can we do in-house? So I really appreciate that. So I just have some questions. I was writing some notes. None of this is in any particular order. The contract vendor that you used for the town buildings, for the custodial services?
Yes.
Has that always been going on, that we don't do that in-house?
Since I have been here, we have always used contracted custodial services. I will say that it is a less expensive venture.
Okay, that's my next question.
However, there's also been it often comes up, why don't we have staff, our own staff in town buildings?
So I was looking on the actual line item budget for that. How much is that? Do you have it offhand where that is, that contract cost?
That is,
No, I don't see it broken down under payroll or salaries and wages, but there should be a contract, right? Spot. Anybody see it?
134.
52230.
What page, Mike?
Thank you, Mike.
C-134, under 52220.
Oh, I see, thank you.
Town Hall Custodial Services. And also, it provides custodial for PD, library, Town Hall, physical.
So it's a 38,100 and,
But that's just physical services in town hall.
Yes.
Those other police, the custodial for police is budgeted in that department.
okay,
Same for the library.
But it's one contract
okay.
with the vendor.
Oh, but this is broken out into pieces and spread throughout the budgets?
Yes.
Okay.
I pay for my part, and Town Hall, PD incorporates their part of the contract in their budget.
Got it.
So there's a total contract cost broken out between the 4 different departments.
So if we were to eliminate that, so to speak, and try to do that in-house, it would be town-wide, it would be a lot, probably too much to, okay, all right. So, thank you. Thank you, Mike, for that. My next question is the vehicles. You said that you didn't have a vehicle for the HVAC guy that's coming. I know that the police department was going to be taking some cars offline, and he said he's dispersing them through the town. Is that something that you've discussed?
We discuss it all the time.
Okay.
And with all due respect to the chief of police, who I adore, by the time we get those vehicles, most of them are truly unable to be driven. They have transmission issues, engine issues. They have really been beaten to death's door.
Okay.
And for many people, that is a change. Years past, vehicles would come off and easily be assimilated into other departments. Unfortunately, the condition, because they're running, the police vehicles run consistently, they're just, and unfortunately, while they're more expensive, they aren't as durable as the old Crown Vics. They're just really not in good condition to keep them for other, and that's also not really an applicable vehicle for a trades worker who needs to be able to have tools and other equipment in a vehicle. That vehicle would also be used as that person's plow truck for the winter.
Okay, okay. Let me see what else. Also, the electrician's truck, the $160,000 truck for, we talk about all the time sharing equipment with other towns, and this is not something that you're probably utilizing every day. Would that be a possibility? Have you talked to Newington,
It
Cromwell,
actually is
Rocky Hill?
something that he would be using every day, because again, it's equipped.
The bucket truck we're talking about, correct?
Well, it's a much smaller bucket truck. In addition to the streetlights that people think about, we have a number of different lights that he has to work on, and also replacing. We have a number of rotting pole lights throughout our residential areas, and so he would be using this truck as he's doing these replacements of the poles, because we're trying to systematically do that and not have the vendor do it. Also, anytime he goes around to any of the exteriors and works on any of the exterior lights, he would be in that truck. So the truck is really would be used 5 days a week, if not more.
And I'm sorry, he's using like a tree?
And right now, he's using, well, to do certain repairs on lights, when he has to really take down the whole head, he needs to utilize the tree truck, or we utilize our vendor that we contracted with when we took over the streetlights.
Okay. And who had the streetlights before that?
Eversource.
Eversource, okay. Curious. And I think that is the end of my questioning. No, one more. Next page, sorry, I have a couple more. So the furniture, I don't think a lot of people realize that physical services, because I don't even know if you made mention that in your opening remarks, about furniture at the schools. Physical services is responsible for replacing desks, chairs, and all that stuff at schools?
Yes, we're responsible for repairing. We're also responsible for making sure that as the school district changes classrooms, if they add a kindergarten room, then we have to find the appropriate sized furniture for the kindergarten room. If they move rooms from one part of the building to the next, move, repair, and do any of that work that's needed on that equipment, on the chairs, teachers' desks, desks, and desks for, most people don't think about it, but furniture that's in an elementary school is a much different size than furniture that's in a junior high school or high school. And most of the furniture throughout the elementary school has not been changed out in probably 30 years. And so we weld it when we need to. There have been times when other schools and other districts have been funded to buy new furniture, we've taken their old furniture.
Okay. Well, if it's not broken.
Which is
I'm just
not
joking,
perfect, but
yeah.
unfortunately, or fortunately, it's been in better condition than what we currently have. And so we utilize it and
Has
do
that
the
always
best that
been
we
the
can.
case? Has Board of Education, have you always had this? Board of Education never did that?
It was,
Or is this something?
when we took the custodians and tradespeople over, that also became an
So pretty
issue when
recently.
I started to put together the capital improvements budget. I don't know specifically when it was with the Board of Ed, how they attempted to fund that, but I
Yeah.
know that it hasn't been funded because it's usually the number one thing after roofs that the superintendent says to me, please try to put into the budget to be able to buy new furniture.
Okay, so I don't mean to henpeck that to death. So Board of Education may have had this at one time,
Yes, they did.
and somehow, some way, do we have any idea how it became a physical services budget item?
Because when we took over
It
the,
somehow got included in
it
that.
got included because
Came
it
with
was
the janitor.
it was part of facilities. And when we took over facilities, we took that over.
Okay.
Whether the fact that it hadn't
You were
been-
told to take that over when
Yes.
that happened? Okay.
And the fact that it hadn't been funded for the years before we took it over, I can't speak to that. I don't know why that was a decision made by the Board of Ed. But since it's come to physical services, we have requested money for furniture.
So it wasn't a part of line item in the budget for them, but it's not on the line item for you, you're just asking this through CIP?
Right.
Got it.
And
Okay.
through the discussions with CIP, it has been mentioned that we should put it in our operating budget, but at the time that we submitted for CIP, that hadn't been a consideration. Going forward, or if it's part of this
Yeah.
budget year, great, but going forward, I would include it in the operating budget, because I really do feel it's important.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I know that was a lot. Thank you. I'm good.
Counselor Carbone, you good? And Deputy Mayor Forrest, did she cover all your questions?
Probably not.
Certainly hit some of them.
I doubt it.
So, Deputy Mayor Forrest and Rich, Counselor Bailey, did you have your hand up?
I have a question for you. I just don't see it on here. How much do you pay the electrical contractor? The name is failing.
Higgins.
Higgins.
For Higgins to come and replace a
Like in the last year, and I'm not going to hold you to the exact number.
I'm not going to, I have no idea off the top of my head. All I know is that every time they replace a pole, it's $1,275, where we could do it for a lot less if we had the equipment.
Well, if you could get us that number, because that will help
Yep.
with the cause on getting the new bucket.
Thank you, Counselor Bailey. Deputy Mayor Forrest.
Thanks, Mayor. Probably one of the best presentations I've seen from physical services, 20 years. And the reason you're going to find out is because I probably had an hour's worth of questions to unpack all this, and I don't anymore. There's a couple. We're still going to do oversight, of course, right? But clear, concise, straight to the point, cause and effect. Thank you. That said, I want to unpack a couple things, especially on the dedicated athletic field staff slide.
Can you bring that one back up,
Absolutely.
Sally? Thank you. Just hold on a second.
Sure.
Sorry, I have to do it
No,
one by
no,
one.
thank you. That's great to hear.
There we go.
First question, and I'm going to start from the sort of the top down, all right? It feels like your in some way, reconfiguring the staff to be dedicated to certain tasks for excellence. Maybe if certain things get funded, maybe if not. Is that generally accurate, or is it just, we're going to do the same thing, but?
No, what we're saying now is that if you, there are 14 people on the grounds department.
Right.
We cannot, because of the scope of the work that we have to do on a daily basis, we cannot take 8, 10, 12 of those people and put them towards fields. To bring the fields and to maintain the fields on a daily basis or a weekly basis, the way that people have the expectation. Because of the fact that we have to be at the schools and throughout the town buildings and picking up trash and mowing other places. However, if we supplement that staff and we do it with the understanding and knowing that those people are going to be dedicated to working in the fields, then the work that is not being done as often as it should be in order to have the fields where we want them, we would get there.
Okay. Next question. There's a list of equipment that you've designated, detailed out. Is that in consideration of, hey, we bring in 5 FTE, which is a decent number. This is not, we're not just like, hey, half-time,
Right.
the old Weathersfield way, right? Where, is this the equipment for like that increased staff? Like, hey, we don't have enough mowers, even if I have
Yes.
mower people to mow it,
Right.
versus if we didn't bring in the 5 FTE, would we still need that equipment?
The answer to that, if you want to do the fields, our mowers whether they're on fields or whether they're on town property. So if we want to have our fields be elevated, then we have to be able to have the equipment to do that work. And currently, for example, I don't have that equipment.
I get it. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure out, like,
Yeah.
is one hand with the other, right? If we have 5 more people, we're going to need the equipment for those
Yes.
5 people to use.
Correct.
But if we don't have those 5 people, we don't need this equipment because we could have all this equipment in the shop all you want. I still only have this many people to run it,
Right.
and it doesn't work.
I'm not going to say that I wouldn't want the equipment because it is possible that we might be able to shift people around. But what I'm saying is that if we had additional people, it does go hand in hand. I love bodies, I want more bodies, but I need to be able to outfit them to produce to the level of expectation that's going to be put upon them. And they need the equipment to do that.
Next question. In this list of equipment, there are items, I'll just use the 2 F-350s. Is some of those items also found in another part of our budget, like CNEF or CIP? Like, are these like additional, or is it, no, like, that's actually the same truck that is in this other section that I'm asking?
It's not the same truck because the fact that the CNEF is, this is a best-case scenario, but the CNEF and CIP is based on what my reality is today and what my needs are today.
Okay. So, whether I'm looking at the CNEF section or other sections of the budget, these are additional
Yes.
than any of that stuff. So if
Right.
we wanted to go down this road and we said Weathersfield wants this new future, we are still looking at all the rest of this stuff, and none of them are duplicative. The trailer's not duplicative, the outfit trucks are not duplicative, the Kubota's not duplicative.
Right.
Okay.
Especially because knowing that this is such a big ask and expectation, then we also would not want to commingle because of the fact that we would need to have these bodies, to have this equipment, to meet that expectation and not pull it from somewhere else or to somewhere else.
Okay.
Because it would have been for that specific purpose.
So, thank you. I'm trying to just, I don't want to take up all the time, I'm trying to hit the highlights here. So, you did start off something that you said when you were doing comparisons of the town, if we want to sort of go there very briefly. But the thing that you mentioned was, we pay I think it was like I thought you said something like $100,000 more than Glastonbury.
No. What I said was that our budget is almost $100,000 less than Glastonbury's. If you look under annual equipment and supply budget,
Right.
our annual budget right now is $52,000. In Glastonbury, it's $150,000.
So when you made that comment, were you specifically talking about annual equipment and supplies, not overall total budget or anything like that?
That is what they are given annually to support their grounds department. That's their operating budget.
So specifically, that comment was for equipment and supplies?
Yes.
Not related to payroll or anything?
No, that's
Okay.
their operating budget
Thank you
for
very
equipment
much.
and supplies.
Understood, thank you. Now, let's say we go down this path of excellence. And we have 5 people, they're dedicated to the different areas that you just described, and now we don't have to shift right across as much in the whole conversation, and I know you're, putting your fingers in the dike, right, just trying to keep the whole thing in good shape. So, does that now, you gave us a couple examples, the masonry, but there was other examples there where we could use now less vendors. If we walk down this path and we dedicate these resources, are we gonna now see, I'm assuming that we're gonna see more projects done, but are we gonna see other benefits where we're not using outside vendors for other stuff, where we can reduce the expectation of those, at least partially, those budget line items? You don't have to do, we saw vendors for inspections, right? That was a perfect example, but the masonry is another thing. So what is the offsetting benefit to dedicating, these resources in such a significant way?
Well, I think that there's specific ones, and then there are the intangibles. I think that if we raise the quality of the fields and the opportunity potentially for other groups to utilize those fields, you would see a benefit in the cost that you would be charging those fields, those organizations. That would be income. As far as other projects, again, I can't speak specifically because I haven't lived in that world yet, but I will tell you that any time that a task has come up that we have been asked, can you do it? The answer has been, our professional staff can do this. So, we can do more irrigation. We can do more masonry. We can do drainage work. We can do field maintenance. One of the things on the slide is a laser leveler. We would be able to use that on ball fields and not use a vendor to do that leveling.
Okay. Through the town manager, but to you, it would be beneficial if this council is going to consider such a change, significant change, if you can identify areas in our budget in this fiscal year, and here's the example, chief of police comes in, he says, I would like a few more police officers. And correspondingly, our response is, does that cut down on overtime, right? Because you have more people to be able to do more work, which does have an effect on a very specific line item, at least in that budget, and you can we can all understand the direct correlation between the two. I'm interested, although this is a phenomenal job and I followed it, which is great, if there are corresponding items that you can identify, maybe you've given a couple examples here, but maybe upon reflection, not right now, that say, hey, if you guys really do walk down this path, I could see us reducing da-da-da-da-da, and I would be interested in that answer significantly, and I would gather that others on this council probably would be interested in that answer.
And as a response, absolutely, we will look into that, but also something to consider. There's been a lot of discussion about how are we going to expand Mill Woods? How are we going to expand the use of Keisha? Everything that you saw on that list would be utilized in the maintenance and upkeep of those expansions. It's the same thing with, would we be able to be better stewards and caretakers of all of our properties?
I get it.
And I totally understand what you're saying. Part of it is that the exercise that I chose to undertake with that slide was to stop robbing Peter to pay Paul. And that if I was going to be able to show the council how to get to a point with fields in comparison to others, then this is what we need. Without trying to say, well, I can save $50,000 from not picking up trash as often or something else like that, understanding it's a zero-sum game. But the exercise was, how do I structure my staff to be able to meet the expectation of the Weathersfield residents?
Again, when you've also demonstrated other areas when we've expanded stuff like that, that there
Yes.
are ancillary benefits that you can
Absolutely.
identify. So I'm asking you to be able to identify the ancillary
And we will
benefits
work on
if there
that.
are any. I think that would be helpful with the council to get to the lift that that's proposed here. Next question is related to the trees. Do we know when the tree planting plan is going to come back to us? I know you're working on a comprehensive one. Or is that the fall?
The inventory?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The inventory, we are in the process of the contract right now for that service. So that is in the works.
In the past, related to the capacity, there was been some discussion where we have wanted to put in money to continue to broaden the Arbor Tree City USA, right, and continue to have a high quality of life with our suburban forest. But we've been told that we just can't do it because we don't have the capacity, whether it's from personnel or also individuals, personnel or equipment. So with the equipment that you've provided here and the personnel, would we be increasing our ability to plant trees?
I believe so, and that's why I said part of the FTEs and utilizing them on the grounds from March through October, and then using those same employees and their equipment November through February to supplement the tree crew to do just that, to do fall plantings, to be able to do increased sight lines, to be able to do brush removal, and it also would free up the tree supervisor, who is the tree warden, to do more outreach and to look for more grants and more opportunities there.
Can you tell us what what would be the capacity increase if we went down this path?
Of,
Tree planting.
I'd have to get back to you, I don't have that specific right now.
If you could, that'd be great.
Matt, that tree question you had, what was that about the contract that she's working on? You said something about,
I'll turn that over to the town manager.
So we received a grant, U.S. Forest Service grant, to actually implement a system where we're going to be, with the tree warden, we'll be inventorying every town tree.
okay.
And it'll be in the GIS mapping system, and they'll be able to tell you, you can click on any tree in the whole town, and it'll tell you what type of tree it is, how old it is, what the condition of the tree is, a replacement, estimated replacement need, based upon its condition. And then with that, we can develop a comprehensive tree plan to come up with a planning schedule in out years to say, okay, we're going to plant 500 trees this year, and these are the ones we're going to plant, and then it just keeps everything on track, so.
It's so funny, the town council and me, as soon as you said that, I'm like, oh, how much did this cost us? Did this cost us anything? But no, it was a grant.
It was a grant.
That's great.
Yep.
And we'll
Thank you.
also
I appreciate
identify where there are, we've talked before about like the emerald ash borer, and where that has affected trees that need to be removed. So again, this additional staff would be able to go in during the off-seasons time and work on those removals.
Deputy Mayor, you still before?
Yep,
Sorry about that.
it's okay.
It's fine.
Mini excavator rental costs, you talked about that. Where is that located, whether it's rental costs for the excavator or, like in our budget? Where are we seeing our rental costs?
We've been paying for it out of equipment. We've been charging it to the projects. For example, like with Webb Stairs, that was a CIP project, so we did it towards that. Old Academy with the chimneys, we charged it to that project.
So that would be a great example, right? If we bought that, then we wouldn't have to do that charge back.
Exactly.
And I don't know but I don't know where the offsets are, right? So if you could help, even if, you may have 30 projects where there's different portions. if you could help with us understanding what those offset, that would be a perfect example of an offset, whether it's equipment or personnel, both sides of that equation. And then last year, this council, to its credit, did make some more investments into your department. We increased, I believe, we saw some masonry work, but also I believe it was a maintainer. Did I get that right? It was a maintainer too? That we an extra person?
Maintainer one.
We did, a maintainer one.
Maintainer one, and a
mason.
floater for the custodial unit in the schools.
Yep.
Could you just could you tell us how, we're at their yearly review, right? Could you tell us what did those resources do? And could you tell us the changes that, the residents and citizens saw from those increases?
Well, certainly the floater helped us out with custodial. Our custodial division does have, unfortunately, at times, rapid turnover. And so we also have people who are absent from work. And so that has allowed us to fill those gaps so that areas can be cleaned appropriately throughout each day. And so it's a vital service. On the days when we've had our full staff show up, we've been able to give additional cleaning to the athletic facilities at the high school, or if there are programs going on at the elementary schools, and also the rec programs at Silas Dean. An additional maintainer one, it's another person who's been able to use a mower, who's been able to use a weed whacker. We've also done a lot more trash pickup throughout town, and so that maintainer one, non-winter operations, has been able to work on what people see when they are walking through town, doing trash pickup, doing more landscaping and gardening work. Making sure that when you go to the High Crest ball field, not only can you play on the field, but that the fence edge has been taken down. And so that it looks cleaner, looks neater, just has a better presentation. That's what that person's been doing.
And you think that has changed over the last 12 months?
That has changed?
That has changed, that where before, not all of that stuff was weed whacked.
I think it certainly helped.
Not all of that stuff was edged, not all that, and maybe there was trash, at parks that now got picked up earlier and quicker and more frequently so that we're not seeing it.
I will say that when it comes to especially the spring, summer, early fall activities, there is so much going on, and the delta between what's going on and my ability to adequately clean and support and make everything nice, having an additional person had an effect. It's brought me up, but I'm still below where I need to be.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The very detailed questions that Councilor Carbone and Deputy Mayor asked have covered all of my questions. I will just point out that this Saturday is Arbor Day celebration in Weathersfield at 9:30 at Hamner School. We're quite proud of the trees we have, so many of them, and we are Tree City USA, and I hope members of the public and members of the council will come. I will be wearing a special T-shirt to commemorate Arbor Day, so I'm looking forward to it. But more importantly, Sally, just terrific presentation, appreciate all the detail.
Let's check and see if...
Oh, Jane, do you have any questions? No, thank you.
And I hate to do this, but I actually have.
Do you have another one?
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. And
Oh,
Emily, you have
good.
one? Go, Emily,
Yeah.
go.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Counselor Zambrella. It's a
big department.
Apologies.
It is, it's one of our biggest.
Yes,
Counselor Zambrella.
I have a few questions. I'm just going to ask one, and then I'll send any others that I have through Fred, if that's okay. About the roof of physical services, can you give us some more details on that, what the age is, what the state is? And I'm also curious if this line item in the budget is related under 52-270, roof repairs and leak response. Is that related to that roof, or is this something else?
That line item is twofold. Leak response is literally that. If we come into Town Hall and there's a leak in the vestibule, that gives us a kind of a open blanket order to be able to call our vendor and say, I have a leak in the vestibule, get over here and fix it.
Okay.
That is a contract that we have. The second part of that contract is if they come in and they work on the leak, but they find that there is a larger area that needs to be repaired, that second contract takes care of funding that repair. The physical services roof, which is the roof there that is over the main bay, the main mechanics bays, is a flat roof. It gets baked on constantly. It is very brittle. It has not been replaced in over 20 years. The seams have come apart and they've simply just disintegrated. And so we've had leaks down the walls. We've made repairs. We've had leaks around some of the skylights, and it's just that the roof is degrading. As a flat roof, we do have some areas where we get some ponding water, where we go in and remove that. The fact that it has lasted as long as it has, it also is right next to the highway. We get pollutants and everything else like that. It degrades it. But we have done, and working with Tremco, we've really made it last, but everything has a time when it's got to be replaced, and that's one of them.
Thank you, and echoing what everybody else says, really appreciate your presentation. It was very, very, very helpful. Gave a lot of good context and some vision, so I appreciate that. And I'll send more questions.
If I can, that I would like to add, and especially under Town Manager Presley's tutelage, is that the collaboration the physical services has with the library, with engineering, with finance, with all of our other departments, we truly do interface with every department, community services throughout town. But also especially for the police department, we support all of the events that we do in town, and people see us as a presence there for the safety of people participating in town. And so we also do lend those services, when we close off roads or we're putting we support fireworks and the carnival. And that's what we love to do. That's why we're here. But we don't talk about it enough, and that collaboration, to make people safe and want to come to town.
We're going to go around one more time, and then we'll, any future questions or further questions, we can direct to the town manager. But
Okay.
Councilor Carbone, go ahead, if you have one quick one.
Do you have an estimated cost for the roof? That was for the physical service?
I don't have it on me. I did provide to the town manager some financials on all of the roofs throughout
Okay.
town.
And as far as your dedicated athletic field staff, you're looking for 5 full-time employees?
Again, I was asked, what did we feel it
You
would
need.
take to provide the service to the town?
I mean, I feel like I know the answer to this question already. If you provided you with 1 full-time employee plus maybe a few seasonal employees, it's better than nothing, right?
Absolutely. And again,
You'd be
this
able to
was,
do,
I'm sorry.
no, would you be able to accomplish your goals, you think, or get to a certain point with?
I would say that we would be on the path to accomplish our goals if, my first thing was to introduce the council to what would it take
Okay.
it's a big ask, but if you don't have the data and the information to know what we need, then it's just shot in the dark. Could that be phased in versus all at once? Those are discussions and decisions that could come.
And this came largely out of our meeting that we had with the rec board and all the leagues that were there, and, what their demands were, and the question was asked of us, have we considered a separate dedicated
No, I get that.
staff?
I was just asking,
So that's what I asked Sally to do, is to come up with, what would
Right.
that be
No, I
if
get
we had
that.
exactly what
And it's not in
we're
the
looking
budget.
for? It's not in the budget
Those
right
5
now.
positions are not in her budget. It's
No, I
just-
get it.
yeah.
No, I completely understand. I understand what you
Best
did,
case
and I
scenario.
appreciate it. However, I'm just
Yeah.
curious.
No, it's a good
Could we move that forward with less
Sure.
employees, right?
Yeah, good question.
I would say this, the answer, yes, is absolutely, but 2 would be.
Would it be worth it?
What would be the long-range plan to get to where you want it to be if it was at the beginning?
Yeah.
So that the momentum wouldn't peter out after 2 people and 1
yeah.
mower. But with the same expectation.
I understand, thank you. So my very last question is, I know we get grants once in a while for HVAC equipment. Is that something we can look into for the town hall, or we don't qualify for any of that, or how is that?
We look all the time for grants. Most of the grants have been currently for schools, and we
Yeah.
have applied for that. We have not seen anything right now for, like, the town buildings. However, I'm constantly in conversations with Eversource for energy usage, ways that we can decrease things, grants or rebates or discounts that if we did change out equipment that would be more energy efficient, how could we get rebates? How could we supplement that? Shout out to Vlada, who has her eyes and ears open all the time, and we work collaboratively to try to find those grants, but they're just not as available.
Thank you, and I'm good, yeah.
Well, thank you, Councilor Carbone. Any further, council? Sally, thank you again. Great presentation. Big part of our budget. Thank you, councilors, for the detailed question. Very important part of our budget. I think Town Clerk is up next. Sue? Thank you, Sally.
It's okay. If you can stay there, yeah.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Sue Schroeder, and I'm the town clerk. So I'll just go over my budget with you quickly. My budget increase this year is $17,257, and that's driven mostly by personnel costs. And the bulk of that is FICA, health insurance, pension. So the total of that is $14,957. And then there's $6,400 in salary increase. So $1,700 of that is contractual for the full-time assistant town clerk. And then the remaining $4,600 is a request I have for the part-time assistant town clerk, which is actually the council clerk. The non-personal increases are minimal, and the total increase is $2,300. So that went from 48,800 to 51. So this year I've allotted $6,000 for absentee ballots. I just wanted to make sure that due to the presidential election, I just want to be on the safe side and allow enough money for the issuing of the absentee ballots. And then also, I have slight increases in the legal notices for elections and on both the elections and the town council legal notices for ordinances and public hearings for $200 each. So to explain a little more about the requested hourly rate for the part-time town clerk position, I just feel it's very important that this position is dedicated support to the town council, and it also supports the office duties on a daily basis. It's necessary to keep this salary at a competitive rate so that the valued and qualified personnel don't leave to find better pay somewhere else. Currently, Deb does a fantastic job in keeping up with all the tasks, and she's extremely efficient, and she's mastered the new Granicus agenda management system, as well as pointed out many of the inconsistencies to the vendor, and as we're finding these as they go along, and she's keeping them honest. Her work ethic and her knowledge make her an asset to the town clerk's office as well as to the town council. And lastly, I have my CNEF request. This is for the land records recording project. This is an ongoing project that I've been trying to complete for several years, and I was very excited to have it started this year by receiving the first $100,000 through the CNFE funding in this year's current budget. This included the scanning of the land records from 1970 through September of 1991. The cost for the scanning was $18,500. So with the remaining $81,500, New Vision, which is our land records vendor, will be indexing the corresponding images that were just scanned as far as they can to do as many documents until that $81,500 is depleted. So I'm requesting
an additional $100,000 to index the remaining documents. And once all these documents have been scanned, I'll work with New Vision, and we will change the way the land records are accessed. Currently, you have to have a subscription in order to access them, but we'll make it more cost-effective so that if a resident wants to print out a copy of their deed, they can do it from home rather than have to come in or have it emailed to them, and they can do it with a credit card and just pay per page. So this will bring Weathersfield up to speed with the other towns in the area. And just a few things that we do. To date, we've issued 650 dog licenses, but by the end of June, we will have probably issued over 2,000. June is our busy month, and we do about 1,400. And actually, that will bring us to over 2,000, which will be a record high for the office. And land records, to date, we've recorded 2,280 documents as of today. Recordings have slowed down considerably due to the decline in home sales. Once there's more inventory and the sales have picked up, we'll see more revenue, but that's something that's impossible to predict. And then lastly, we're actually issuing more vital records than we have in the past, which has been a pretty big increase to our revenue, probably over a year, about $10,000 with the new systems that the state has implemented over the past few years with birth records and death records. Anyone that's passed away or been born within, well, births go back to 2002, but anyone who's died in the past few years, their death records are available in any town in the state. So people don't have to go either to the hospital town if they've died in a hospital or to the actual town where they've died. They can go anywhere. So because we're located so close to Hartford, we get a lot of the requests from the hospital town because it's easier and we can print those right off.
Thank you, Sue. Appreciate all the work you and your team do in the building, a fair amount, and there's so many people that go through your department, and you guys are always smiling, and you're like the front face of the town, and appreciate all the work that you do. Going to open it up for council questions on the town clerk's budget. Anybody? Councilors? Hearing none, we will move along. Thank you. Appreciate it. Next, we have Fred, the town manager, human resources, and the town council.
Sure.
So Fred, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll start with town manager. So as it shows here in the, on page C15, the town manager's budget, it actually shows this as a decrease, but in all reality, it is not a decrease, and I'll explain that. As you heard from Community and Economic Development, as part of this proposed budget, we did a restructuring which moved 2 full-time positions and 1 part-time position from the town manager's office up to Community and Economic Development. Those positions were the zoning enforcement officer, the CIP administrator, and the ZBA commission clerk. And the total impact on their budget was about $180,303. In addition, what we're proposing here for our budget is a reclassification of the human resource manager to the position of assistant town manager. This is a position that existed in this town for many years, was eliminated, and this position, as proposed, will oversee, continue to oversee human resources, but will also assist me in the day-to-day operations of the town beyond that. In addition to that, there's another reclassification that we're proposing to make the HR function more efficient. One is that in reality, the current secretary in the town for the human resources position is in actuality doing the work of a human resource generalist. She's really met the challenge. Valerie Carpenter's done everything that we've ever asked her to do. She's done additional training. She's become very adept at dealing with the issues. And I'll note that in the few times since I've been here that we've been without an HR manager, she's really picked up a lot of the responsibility and done a lot of the work necessary. So we're proposing to increase her position to that of a human resource generalist. We're also proposing to add an additional human resource generalist. This position will not only assist the HR office, but will also be invaluable to finance office because, again, with the turnover that we've had in the HR manager position over the years, even before I got here, and then since I've been here, has resulted in many of the functions of the HR office shifting by necessity up to finance. And Mike O'Neill and his staff have taken on that load, and it is not effectively shifted back. And this position will help to do that, but also to take some of the load off of the assistant town manager as part of this restructuring as proposed. Salary-wise, the impact of these changes would be about $161,000. And in addition to that, we have some non-personnel costs that were affected by the transfer of the positions up to community economic development of about $3,800. That money will move up to them. And then we are also proposing that a transfer of $5,000 roughly to the town council budget due to the transit district increase. Labor relations attorney fees, we are going to reduce that item to about from $110,000 to about $80,000. That is really in large part due to the fact that we've had consistency in the position now in human resources, and we're able to, Erica has a lot of experience in the negotiations piece, so we only bring in the labor attorney as needed. And we're hopeful that a lot of the existing cases we have that have been plaguing us and causing us to be in court and in arbitrations a lot are coming to an end. So we're reducing that number. There's a slight increase in office supplies, and then also that's to do with the additional staff and just rising costs, and some support services increased by $1,600, and $5,000 was added to professional services for town council support. So that is the town manager's budget, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Councilors? Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Just one, Fred, the sort of reorg that you talked about with the additional position and the moving of the positions, is that already in the budget, or
Yes.
are you requesting more?
That is all in the budget as proposed.
That's my only question, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, moving right along then, the town council's budget.
So next we'll go to town council. So the budget page for that is C8. So overall, the proposed increase for this budget is $60,000, just over $60,000. That's an almost 70% increase.
Must be a salary increase. That's two good jokes during the thing.
That's right.
It's never going to happen again.
Now, the bulk of that is non-personnel, and I'll get into some of the detail here. There are some increases for things like copying and binding, membership dues for CROG, the Council of Small Towns, and CCM. The annual audit is in there, but that's flat at $36,000. Public service contributions is where you really see the majority of the increase, and that is because I've added the addition of, after talking with the mayor and the deputy mayor, I've added, as a request, an additional amount of $50,000 for public event support. The reason being is that, as I think everybody knows, we do a lot of public events here in town. So everything from Porch Fest to Holidays on Main to the fireworks to the carnival to various road races, Corn Fest, Memorial Day Parade, all of these require additional staff support with respect to public safety, both physical services staff and police staff predominantly, but also parks and recreation staff support and materials as well, like lighting towers for the holidays on Main, things like that. There's a lot of expense involved with that. Now, we've also vastly increased our level of security at these events, and that's out of necessity in the world we live in today. I think things were just taken for granted that we would, everything was going to be great and everyone's going to be nice and there aren't going to be any issues, but I don't think we can operate in that way anymore. So we have raised the level of protection at all of these events to make sure that our citizens and visitors are safe. In doing that in the past 2 years since I've been here, previously the sponsoring organizations would cover most, if not all, of those expenses. We would basically send them a bill. Those bills have doubled for them over the last 2 years. So for a group like Keene Foundation or the shopkeepers, that kind of an impact has been something that they just have not been able to absorb. And frankly, I don't believe it's appropriate that they should. These are community events. We all benefit from it. The entire community benefits from it. And in conversations, like I said, with the mayor and others, I think it's important that we recognize that this does not cover the full cost of those events. This would just be, again, to take up that half amount. They would still, all those organizations still contribute at the level that they had previously been contributing. But I don't think it's fair to ask the Keene Foundation to go from $3,000 to $6,000 for what they pay for an event, because that could eat up most, if not all, of their profits for something like that. And again, these are truly community events. I think Weathersfield is known for their community events, and I think they're also known for the level of safety and coordination we do around these events. So the proposal here is for $50,000, and that would be for all those events. And again, it's basically to cover the staff support as opposed to having it come out of each department's budgets. So that's the bulk of the increase. You'll also note that we increased from $4,000 to $5,000, things like council events, dinners, flowers, and donations. Those types of things gives you a little bit more flexibility on those things. I know we've been doing more in the way of the retreat and some other things that I think we have to have funding to cover those, and our current budget is not adequate to do that. So those are the proposed increases. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Councilor, questions? Councilor Carbone.
Thank you. Thank you, Town Manager, for going over our budget. I guess my biggest concern, obviously, is the elephant in the room, that $50,000. And I can appreciate where you're coming from, where you don't want people to absorb that expense, but I think everybody's spending more right now. So I'm sure people expect it. I know that's just more of a comment than a question. But I just think that's an exorbitant amount to, when you say, is it for, you mentioned it's for safety purposes mostly? So wouldn't that fall under either physical services or our police department as opposed to out of a town council budget? Like, is that,
We could certainly shift the money into the various budgets if that's what the council prefers. I mean, I saw this as public events being a council function. You can put it in the town manager's budget. It doesn't really matter where it is. I just felt this is appropriate as community events that the council would sponsor it. But it could be anywhere. We can put it in the departments. We can put it in the town manager's budget. The point is that I think we need the money to help support these events, because in this past year, the department budgets have had to absorb that, and that's going to be a big impact on those budgets, and some will be behind because of it, and others will just make it up, and that's just money that won't transfer over at the end for fund balance.
So they had to absorb it because the people refused to pay it, or you didn't bill them, you didn't ask them to increase their cost?
No, we left it flat because that's what they've always paid, that's what they budgeted for. You can't ask an organization that, budgeted a year out to now double that budget. I don't think that's a reasonable thing to do. And again, in conversation with both previous council and this one, I just felt that, that was a prudent thing to do, and that we would address it during this budget season moving forward.
So this number is for the year, and this number you came up for would cover all of that based on what's happened this past year?
That's an estimate based upon what's happened the past year, and any money that's left over will just roll back over into fund balance, and we can adjust as we go. It's the first time this is being done like this, so, but yeah, I think it's, and it's something that you can, certainly as part of this process, you know, you can move it up, down, do whatever you feel is appropriate, but I just wanted to provide you with a number that I felt was appropriate, given, again, the vast number of events that we do on a regular basis here.
Okay, thank you. And then the Greater Hartford Transit, maybe I missed that. What is that increase for?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
For the Hartford Transit, the Greater Hartford Transit?
Yeah.
That was from your, again, moved
Yes,
from
so
your
that-
budget?
that's just something that's been in your budget all along. It's just an increase that we get from Greater Hartford Transit. They tell us what our share is as one of the communities that benefit from the services provided. We don't get to negotiate that. That's just, this is what it
Oh,
is.
this
They
is how
send
much
us
you
a
owe.
number as part of the budget process, so we just added that increase in.
And again, I'm just curious as to how the town council, it's because it's a big jump for town council budget.
Sure.
So, and you just felt the need to move it from your budget to the town council budget?
What's that?
You said it was moved from the manager budget, town manager budget?
No, I didn't.
Oh, it says it here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you did. No, kidding.
I don't know why that was done.
Who wrote this?
I don't know why that was done.
Yeah, I don't remember what.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you, yeah, I don't know why that was done. It was,
I think it's because it aligns more with like CROG and.
yeah,
It's
okay.
It's a dues paid to an organization.
Yeah. Basically, we belong to a lot of regional groups, and Hartford Transit's one of those. So all the other ones are in your budget. So I think in just conversations as we're doing this, why do we have one in the town manager's budget, I think was a question. But again, they can rest anywhere in the budget. We have to pay it as part of the region.
Okay. All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Counselor Carbone. Further, Counselor Timbrow.
Thank you. So going back to the $50,000 increase, I'm just trying to understand. So you said that how it's worked in the past is we have a flat fee for the sponsors?
No, I didn't. It hasn't been a flat fee. It's been a fee based upon the service that was provided previous to that, but it was pretty consistent amount over the years. So as far as the organizations were concerned, it was pretty flat. They could pretty much guarantee that, you know, so Keene Foundation, as an example, for the carnival, it was around $3,300, something like that. It was every year, it was right around the same amount. So they budgeted that amount, and that's what it was. And so for other events, it was very similar. There was like an amount that they were pretty consistent with, and those numbers increased substantially due to the things like street closures and the increased law enforcement presence, using the dump trucks to block off some streets, things like that we've done a lot more aggressively than have been done in the past.
So it's not a preset fee that the town has placed, so has that fee then increased over time?
Yes, especially in the last few years with the new police chief taking security a lot more serious, and in our conversations as a team, we meet as a team with all of our departments on these events, and we determine what's, appropriate for the level of safety required for. When you have thousands of people in a very small area, we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to prevent any kind of tragedy.
Yeah, so I guess I'm just trying to understand the jump, because it seems that you're saying that the jump to double has been in the past year, but over the last, say, 10 years, it's just been a slight increase every year that the sponsors have been able to keep up with, or?
No, in the last 2 years has really been the big shift, because we've increased our security. And we've covered that through our budgets. What I'm saying is, if we're going to do this, and it's not fair to have the departments try to figure it out, unless it's part of it, that we can separate all this out, put it all in department budgets, but I just wanted to be very clear and transparent that we're doing this, and that's why we created this other item, because I think it's important that we show the community we are supporting events, we are partners in all of this. So it's a proposal, and you guys can hate it and say we're not going to do it, but I think it's something that anywhere else I've been, we've had a line item to support community events, and it included security, it included things like marketing, including all kinds of things. This is really about the security and the safety of these events, and I'm putting a proposal out there for you all to consider, and if you don't think it's appropriate, you don't have to do it. So, yeah.
So, just moving on, so how, do we know what percentage over the last few years the town has absorbed? Because you're saying that every year the town's absorbed some type of percentage, so I'm just trying to understand.
I'm saying the last 2 years we have, yes.
Right, do we have that, do we know the percentage that the town has absorbed versus the sponsors?
It's probably about 50% of the cost, based upon the last few major events we've done. It's different for different events, so like a road race, the increase is minimal, so, it's not as big, but like for the large events, Porch Fest, we're closing streets, Holidays on Main, the fireworks and the carnival, those are about doubled. So we've absorbed half of those costs.
So we have numbers or data to
Yes.
show the jump from prior to 2 years
Yes.
and now that there's been a 50% increased cost to the town for these, like just say, and I
Yes.
don't need the individual things, but just in total, that's what it is the last 2 years versus previous years, it wasn't close to the 50%?
Yes, we can show you that, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I would appreciate being able to see
Sure.
that. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Timbrow. Deputy Mayor Forrest.
Oh, yeah.
You're up.
But I'll wait.
Fred, it's just sort of technically, as we're sort of working this out, maybe it's a little bit of the nomenclature of public service contributions. You could be, say, like obligations or shared celebrations, and then you have it listed out. But I understand why it's all here. I'm actually not interested in throwing them all back individually into, the various budgets that support it. But the questions, I think, are legitimate, especially as it's a little bit new and getting used to it.
Oh, absolutely.
Comfort level, the rest of it. And then one of those things is, and I'm thinking about some of these things like our obligations, right? If we want to be part of CROG, it's an obligation, it's a dues. And when we went through CIP, there was still even in there, like some obligations. Do we have an obligation to pay for that paving with the church, right? We just do, like it's.
Sure.
It's almost like an obligation level, and I'm wondering as we sort of budget and continue to be transparent, if that's what this is. These are sort of some like identified obligations that we have committed ourselves to as a town, whether morally, ethically, contractually, or otherwise. And I think that we're sort of adjusting our budgetary setup for those as well, and we had talked about that. And on those obligations, it seems to be the annual audit, which is the audit of our books. Is that what that annual audit is?
Yes.
And was that somewhere else before? Like, that almost seems like it would be an obligation in finance, right, rather than town council, but...
I can't speak to history, but
The governing body is responsible for the audit. It would be a conflict to have the finance office. So I don't pay the auditors. I mean, I pay them, but I don't authorize the payments. But that's why, because it's a function, the annual audit is a function of the governing body.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Any further council questions? Go ahead. I have a couple, but.
Go.
No.
You might actually ask the question I want.
Well, and I also want to comment, so, the town manager is bringing us some best practices from his years of experience, and one of the recommendations, the one you see here, is the line item for community events that he's done in other places, and I view it as a best practice or a better way to account for things. It also is, part of the fabric of our community, these events, and one of the things that we're known for, and some of these events would not happen if we were not able to put a level of contribution. For example, the fireworks. The fireworks were a Chamber of Commerce event solely funded by them. Now, they raise money and they contribute some, but they can't contribute the whole thing. So as part of this, we are potentially paying part of the cost. The fireworks are like 20,000, maybe 20-something thousand.
just for the fireworks.
Just for the fireworks, and then we have all the ancillary costs. So if we don't feel as a town we want fireworks, which we get like 8,000 to 10,000 people, it's probably one of the top 3 community events that we have. But the chamber, which 100%, well, I shouldn't say 100%, they 100% supported the actual cost of the fireworks, they no longer can do that. So they came to us. So again, that's a decision. If we don't want the fireworks and we don't want to pay whatever that part of this is, 10,000, 20,000, we can say we don't have to do it, or we can find other ways to raise money. But this is a best practice from from other towns, and it seems right to me in terms of having accounting and having a line item that's in our budget. My only question is on the dues. So I know CROG and I know CCM. Do you know, Mr. Town Manager, what we get from the Council of Small Towns? And is it duplicative of the other organizations?
Some of the functions could be considered duplicative, but I think also they have a specific focus around the needs of the small towns. Some of those larger organizations focus on the larger urban areas. My limited time here, I'm actually on the executive board for the Council of Small Towns. They do a lot of lobbying for the needs and the priorities of the smaller communities. They also provide various services, but as I'm getting into it, I'm learning more about them as I've been getting engaged in this. I can tell you I've worked a lot more with CROG than any of the other ones.
Yep.
Each one has its own kind of niche, but I would say that, we get value out of each one. It's a relatively small amount.
Yeah.
I think it's also, it's appropriate to stay involved with them.
Yeah.
CROG by far we get the most value out of, as you know, being involved with that as well. So I think they're all valuable and we should stay part of it, but.
Got it. No, appreciate that. That's helpful for me. Good, thank you. Further council comment? Shelley, did you have?
I do.
Councilor Carbone?
I do, thank you. I'm trying to word this right so I don't sound horrible. I appreciate you letting us ask questions, because I feel if I have a question, obviously somebody watching this
Sure.
is questioning the same thing, and we get a lot of questions about budgets and where our money is going. So I think being transparent is important, right? So thank you for allowing me to ask questions, even if I always sound a little, yeah. So when you talked about the money being absorbed the past 2 years for the events, and going back to that, yes, I'm like a dog on a bone right now. So where did that money become absorbed from? Out of which budgets did that money come from, the one that was absorbed the past 2 years?
The various budgets of those providing the service.
So,
So again,
like safety.
lion's share physical services and police overtime.
Okay, because, and you also made a comment about this shows the town that we're invested in their safety and we're partnering with them and with these other, committees and groups. And
Sure.
I think we've done a great job of that over the years. I think our town knows we're really committed to
Yeah.
their safety and their well-being, so I don't think that part's necessary. But, so really, this is your way of pulling it out of their budget to free them up so they don't have to deal with it? I'm just trying to understand it.
It's worked out in the last few years that we've been able to cover it in their budgets because, so physical services, as example, we've had some light snow years. So they've had money in their budget, like lack of overtime, things like that, they've been able to absorb it. If we had a bad snow year, I tell you, they'd be in the red and they wouldn't have been able to absorb the extra work involved in these events. So, and it's also something that, frankly, again, this is my opinion, you can take it or leave it. But it's just, I believe it's more appropriate if we're supporting these events, then we should, I think it actually benefits council to say, look, we're supporting these events and we're not physical services supporting these events, or this is the town decision. I want to make it very transparent and say that this is something that's important to the town, we want to support the events. I will tell you that, when initially we sent the bills to some of the organizations, because it was just automatic, this is what it costs.
Yep.
I was reached out to by, King Foundation, they said, we can't,
do it.
we don't have that, we've never had to pay that before, and, no one gave us any warning about this, and I don't know that we're going to be able to do this event. That's not what we want. So I think it's important that we be as transparent as possible, and if it's, I think they're great events. I think they benefit the community as a whole. I think they benefit businesses across the board. There's no question, bringing people into town like that. I just think it's important to
So
make it
will
very
you,
clear
just out of
what
curiosity, will you be saying, breaking it down for them, saying this is the cost of the event and we're going to support this 50%?
Absolutely.
That's how it's going to go?
Yes.
Okay. And so if their costs still may increase, right? Because everything's going up,
Sure.
we're increasing everything.
Yeah.
And what if they say no to absorbing that little increase?
It's something we can bring back to you all and say, look, this is what we had talked about. There's a request for additional support, and if the council wants to do that, great. If not,
If not, no fireworks for us, no.
Yeah.
It's okay. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Councilor Carbone. Further council questions? Seeing none, we will wrap up this item, and we will go to finance. Mike O'Neill.
I'm just going to hand out a question that came up earlier from the deputy mayor on building permits.
Thank you.
So that's just month-by-month numbers with a projection of that.
Great.
Thank you, Mike.
Virus or anything? You don't have a virus or anything?
Good evening, Mike O'Neill, Director of Finance. What I thought, I have quite a few departments to go through, which a lot of these are just cost centers. You know, we call them departments in the budget. Some of them are fairly simple, but they're all behind the finance tab in the black binder. So that's the order that I will go in. And please just, if I'm not looking up, just stop me if you have any questions. But I'll try to just, like I said, some of these are fairly straightforward, and I'll just keep things moving, but stop me if there are any questions. So the first one is probate court. This is a contribution, an obligation that we make to support the probate court. It's just the court sends us, actually Newington does a calculation. They take the total budget for the probate court. I think it's just the occupancy costs that the towns cover, and then they allocate it across the towns based on grand list. So this is just our contribution. So we check with the court to see if there's any change in their budget. There typically is not. It's a very stable contribution that we make, $34,000, same as last year. And they'll bill us quarterly for that.
Thank you, Mike. We'll just take it item by item. Does anybody have anything on the probate court?
Well, I would just, what other
Council
towns,
Council.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go.
What other towns, I know Newington and Weathersfield, is there another town, or just the two of us?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
I thought it was Rocky Hill also, was in that group. Is it?
I think it is.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So it's just it's three towns? You know, you don't know, okay.
Almost 100,000.
Anything else on probate court?
They just send us our bill.
Yeah, I should know.
You good, Council President?
I'm good, yes.
Good. All right, yep, next one.
Next item is a treasurer, town treasurer. That's $3,107 by charter. The council appoints a treasurer and a deputy treasurer, and there's a $1,500 stipend that's paid out monthly to those two positions. And I'm also a deputy treasurer, so if you're wondering what the role of the treasurer is, it's basically custody of town funds. So I've met with both Tom Izzard and Tom Fitzpatrick and explained to them kind of how our operations work, and that they're welcome to, to always, to come in and see anything, how we do things, and to look at supporting documents before we disperse funds, that sort of thing. And they've done that at times. They're also, by virtue of being town treasurer or deputy treasurer, have a seat on the pension committee for the town pension fund and for the volunteer fire pension fund. So that's all that is. That $1,500 stipend has remained the same for quite some time.
Any question on the town treasurer? Keep going, Mike, thank you.
Next item is the finance department. That's my department. Total budget request is $792, which is a 9.6% increase. We have 5 full-time employees, myself included, and 1 part-time position. Those are all currently full, we pay the bills, we pay payroll, we administer the pension, we bill retirees for their medical coverage for their share, we do billings for police private duty, we do cover, all the treasury functions, including debt service, for the town. So it's quite a bit for 5.5 people.
Procurement, too.
And procurement, you're right. I've included a $40,000 item, a new item in the budget, which is to implement an automated time and attendance system. Currently, we have time clocks at physical services, and the police department has just implemented electronic timekeeping. All other departments are on paper or old-fashioned punch cards in the case of all of our summer help at the pools and so forth. We generate, every pay period, about 6 inches of paper that is handled by the employee. They fill out for their 2 weeks. They give it to their supervisor to be reviewed and approved, and then it comes up to finance, and we go through it and make sure everything balances because it's all manual and so forth. And we're just in desperate need. It's an enormous extra effort in these times, I think. So what we've done is our financial system is called Munis. It's Tyler Technologies is the vendor. We went to them and we asked them for their product, which integrates with the payroll system, so it would allow us to use either time clocks in cases like the summer help at the pools, or simply online, for town hall for people to punch in and out every day. And all that would feed directly into the payroll system, and it would save a lot of time and a lot of manual effort. So the $40,000 there'd be part of that $15,000 would be a recurring maintenance fee for the software, and the other $25,000 is just implementation services, having the vendor help us configure that system and get it all set up, and then there's money in that 25 also for time clocks.
I'm sorry, you said, is that a yearly fee, the 15,000?
The 15,000 is.
Thank you.
Councilor Bailey, council questions?
You're ahead of us.
You go right ahead.
All right.
You're in.
This is the whole town.
This would be everybody, yep.
This is not just Public Works is punching in anymore. All right.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah, and there's an accountability, too, which I like about it.
Council questions on the finance budget? Keep going, Mike, thank you.
Okay. Next item is central services. This is really just a cost center. It's a department that I manage in finance, and it is basically our copiers in all departments across the town, our postage, and our telecommunications. So the telecommunications would be not only the new phone system, the voice over IP phone system, but mobile phones primarily for police and physical services. But I do have a new item as well here. We have a very old fleet of copiers, and we're requesting about $40,000 to renew those. We've gotten an estimate from Canon. Canon is the vendor. They're on a state contract. They've been running the program at the schools for quite a few years, and they've gone through all of our buildings and figured out what we need. The idea of this program is to get as many printers off of people's desks as possible and to drive all of that activity, the printing, to larger printers that consume less energy and use less toner. And so the idea would be that right now every department is paying for toner and filling their, some people have inkjets. I mean, there's departments buy their own printers and they proliferate. And this is an effort to, one, to refresh the fleet of printers and copiers and to ultimately reduce cost. But it's a $40,000 increase because we've been using old copiers that are off lease for quite a few years. And this is one of those projects like the phone project that's just sort of been queued up behind other more pressing matters, and we're finally getting to the point where we would like to do this program.
Council questions on central services? Councilor Timbrow.
Hi. Okay, so regarding the copiers, just to understand, when you're saying it's a refresh of the copiers and printers, are you saying item by item, like you're looking to switch out one printer, one copier for another one, or you're looking at getting one copier that can handle everything that's going, and I'm only asking because we've shifted to digital a lot, so I'm trying to understand if you're trying to go item by item, or is there a more efficient way, so it's not.
It's the latter. It's taking a lot of large $600-800 laser printers that are, multiple units in departments, and saying, you can't have one on the table next to your desk now, you gotta walk over there and use it to, in the machine that's it'll scan and fax and do all those things, right? So it's a multifunction machine.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear on what you were asking.
All set? Councilor Timbrow? Yep. Councilor Carbone?
Thank you. So when you say it's a lease, correct? It's a copier lease? Is
Yes.
that a yearly lease? Is that a one-time? So are we upping this?
It's a 5-year lease.
So the $64,000 would be for 5 years?
Yep.
Okay. And the $23,000 last year, was that for 1 year of the 5? I'm trying to.
Yeah, it's just, that was a year-to-year, all this old equipment, some of the old equipment, the terms of the leases are that you continue to pay until you send it back.
Got it.
And so we've just been, we've been continuing to make payments on equipment it breaks, it's outdated, we've had some equipment that just, they can't fix it anymore.
So we pay all of that up front, and then we don't have to pay anything for 5 years? That lease, the $65,000?
No, that's an annual amount.
Oh, so so the budget's going to go up $40,000 every year for 5 years, and at the end of that 5 years, what happens?
Then we can either continue to use the equipment, or they'll refresh it for us.
At no cost, or continue to lease?
You just keep,
It's not
you
like
always
buy,
buy.
like,
No,
okay.
you keep
It's not like we're
paying.
going to end up with that equipment at some point, it's going to continue
We
to
could,
lease.
I mean, there's a buyout clause, and we can own it, which is not really the model. We'd rather have, at the end of 5 years,
Get a newer one.
get a
or
new one,
trade in.
and, maintain the payments.
Okay, that makes sense. I had another question, but that's okay, I'm good. Thank you.
Further questions about central services? Seeing none, next one, Mike.
Next item is EMS. That is the volunteer ambulance service, and there's $10,000 in there, plus some payroll tax costs, which is for stipends that have been paid in the past. Those have not, we used to pay, there were $1,000, we used to pay 11, 12, 15 people for those, and that's dwindled. We've kind of kept it the same, and that's what we're doing this year, is just carrying that forward, given the kind of the status of where that is.
Questions on this, councilors?
Yes.
Councilor Clancy.
It does say it's $1,000 per qualifying member. What makes someone a qualifying member?
They would tell us, the chief would tell us based on the number of calls that they answered.
Oh, so it's similar to the point system that the
That's right.
fire department has.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Further council questions?
How much did I skip to?
Councilor Carbone?
I'm sorry, I was just looking at this, I'm like,
Are you good?
I think I'm lost in the budget.
That's all right.
So we just went over EMS, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, and then,
Well,
where did you see the other thing, Cindy, about?
From EMS.
EMS,
It's the last paragraph, the last sentence, actually,
in the blue book.
I am,
on C-115.
that's okay, I'll find it. I am.
Okay, Mike, go to the next
Thank
one.
you.
We can come back to it if you need to, Shelley.
Nope, that's good, thank you.
Next item is the Central Health District. This is not unlike the probate court, where we share services with several other towns. They basically report to us what their budget is for the year, and we include that in the budget for consideration. So this year, there was a $13,000 increase to $223,000, which is about a 6.5% increase over last year.
Questions on this, Central Connecticut Health District, counselors? Seeing none, what's that?
I'm glad we have them.
Seeing none, next one, Mike?
Next item is contingency. This is just basically an emergency appropriation that's included. It's a good budgeting practice to have that. The charter allows the council at any point during the year to transfer funds, transfer appropriation from contingency to another department if there's a need. You also have the power in the last quarter of the fiscal year to move money between departments if there's a known excess in another department, but you can't do that in the first 9 months, so you would have to rely on the contingency to solve a problem like that. And that amount has remained the same for quite some time, at $340,000.
And that's like a case of emergency fund, correct?
Correct.
Questions on the Deputy Mayor Forrest?
We're talking about sort of policy and financial policies. Is there a guideline for what an appropriate contingency would be, probably based on total, total budgetary thing, like 1%, 2%, or some number, or whatever, 0.5, I don't know.
You're right that it's based on the size of the budget.
Yeah.
But I have not, unlike fund balance policy there's, kind of a consensus around that. This is a little different.
Yeah.
Kind of depends, and so I've never seen a number that's out there that, is a target.
Do you have any, though, as far as, been through a lot of budgets, I think you're in your own town, don't you serve in some capacity?
I do. I'm an elected treasurer in the town of Marlborough.
Right, so you've got some experience. Like, what is good guidance? So we don't have a policy. What like, if we were going to make a policy?
Good guidance for us here is kind of what we've seen in the past, which is a fairly limited need, thankfully, to use contingency, and that is, in my opinion, is because of the sort of the culture of budgeting that we've always had here, which is to be reasonable. In every department, they budget for what they believe they need for the coming year. They budget for new initiatives. They always hope that those are approved. Often they are, sometimes they are not. But what you see, and what you will see, for those of you who are new, is that our department heads are quite good about managing their budgets, and when we get down to the end of the year, there's money left. And it is not the practice for departments, when they see they have $10,000 left, to find a way to use it. They kind of go by the plan. That's what we do. And the result is, and we'll come to you this summer, and hopefully it'll happen again, it should, because that's how we budget, is we'll have money left over in departments, and it'll be an opportunity for the council to redirect that unspent money to typically reserve accounts, capital projects, or equipment. But again, that's because it's there because departments follow the plan. The plan that all the plans you've heard about in the past couple of weeks here, we tend not to do new things, that haven't been, thought through and discussed. So when there's vacant positions, we save money, right? When someone takes single coverage for medical or no coverage, and we've budgeted family coverage because it's a vacant position, there's savings and things like that too. So to the question, I had to take my mind back to what we were talking about here, was contingency. So we have, I think we have a little bit more built in because of the culture of budgeting that we use here. We know that we expect to see money at the end of the year. And I think if we had a big problem right now, at this stage of the fiscal year, we could go through the departments and really scour things and challenge department heads on what they were going to spend between now and June 30th, and we could identify money and use it now if we had to, if we had depleted our $340,000.
Okay, thank you.
Any other Counselor Timbrow?
Thank you. So, I am new, so I'm trying to understand. When it comes to this fund, are you saying that the $340,000 is purely from budgeting in the departments, or does the town put something into that as well to get to that number?
It's an extra appropriation.
Okay.
It's extra money that you appropriate, and it's there. And again, one of the big reasons is you can't go find money in other departments during the first 9 months of the year. You can only go to contingency, or you could do a special appropriation.
Okay. And is this something that, just because you mentioned the end of the year a few times, that we try and go through by the end of the year to use for other things? Or is it like we want to try and maintain as much as possible so less has to be, like, what's the thought process behind the end of the year?
The departments do not try to use it. The departments follow plan, but it's left for the council. We will come to the council this summer after June 30th when the dust settles and all the bills are paid, and we'll tell you I'll make up a number, $400,000 unexpended. Do you want to let that lapse and let it build fund balance, or are there projects or reserve accounts that you'd like to replenish?
So I guess then my question would be more towards the council, just in mentality when it comes to this fund. Is it something that previously you guys want to have tried to dwindle down and use every single cent, or is it something that you've more tried to maintain? So I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, I'll start and then Mike can fill in. We rarely use this money. It sits there almost as an emergency for us, Mike. So it's budgeted as the precaution in case of emergency, and it's been budgeted similar to this level, I think you said, for many, many years. But maybe, Mike, you could share with the council, maybe sometimes it was used in the past, or some items it might have been used for that you're aware of. But it's been budgeted at this level for many, many years, and it's just an emergency fund. It often is not used.
So
it actually, it's part of what's left over at the end. If you don't use it, it's part of, my example was $400,000. It's part of the 400. If I come to you in August and say, we have $400,000 we didn't spend, if we had not touched this money, 340 of it would be this. So it lapses like every other appropriation. If nothing is done, if it's not spent, and it's not redirected through year-end budget transfers, it just lapses to fund balance. It's not something that builds up.
Okay.
We don't add another $340,000 to it every year.
Okay,
and it
thank
sits
you.
over there. It's not like that.
Okay, so, thank you, I feel,
That's what fund balance is. That's what fund balance builds up from year to year. It accumulates.
so is there any stipulation, I'm kind of doing both, is there any stipulation to what these funds can be used for? I think, like, does it have to hit a certain qualifying, or could it be used for, say?
So, an appropriation it's a legal term.
Yeah.
When you approve this budget, you will be approving some appropriations individually, like the Board of Ed. There'll be a separate vote on the appropriation for the Board of Ed. Most of the town, but the library is going to be separate too. Everything else is appropriated at the department level. So, what does that mean? That means that money can be used for anything within that department. You're not budgeting at the account level like what we're looking at and talking about, but we respect that. The department has respect that. But it allows you have the ability to move money from one department appropriation to another in the last 3 months of the year or after year end.
Okay.
But you can't do that in the first 9 months, which is why we have the contingency, so that if there was a problem. Think of an example. We replaced a generator at the police department a year ago. It was about $90,000. It was early in the year, very large, and we decided to transfer money from contingency into the police department so that they could pay for that. There was a fire engine 5 years ago. The frame cracked
Oh, yeah.
that we had to get fixed. I can't remember which one it was.
Engine 11.
11. Very large, 200,000. I think it was less than that in the end, but we thought it was going to be as much as 200,000. They had to pull it apart, so we didn't really know that we transferred money then for that.
Okay, okay, thank you.
I think those are the only two times I can remember in my 10 years here.
Oh,
Good.
Good.
Thank you, Counselor Timbrow. Further council questions, comments? Mike, next one.
Next item is debt service. In this, there's a whole section in the back of your blue book where you can see some of the history of this, but this is obviously our bonds. It's mostly the renovation bonds for the high school that are left, and you can see the last few years, this number has come down significantly because, typically we have bonded for 20 years, so borrowing that we did 20 years ago comes to an end, and that number goes down. That's what we're seeing again this year. It goes down by about $150,000.
Questions on debt service, councilors? Seeing none, next item, Mike.
Next item is insurance, and I think if we go to the blue book on this one, I'm working mostly from the black binder, but the blue book will have just a breakdown of our policies, the largest one being what we call our LAP policy, that's liability, auto, property. That is together, you can see we have it split there into two pieces because we pay, the Board of Ed does not pay property insurance. We pay that because the town owns the buildings, and so we pay for all of that. But combined, the Board of Ed piece and the town piece is $638,000. That came down. We had put the coverage out to bid at this time last year, so we did not know obviously what that was going to be. We had to be a little conservative in what we budgeted. Our carrier, Kerma, which is an interlocal pool, it's basically owned by the cities and towns in Connecticut, and we participate in that. They won the bid, and actually, their premium came down from what we budgeted, so that's reflected here. And then there are several other items you can see below that. There's a cybersecurity policy that we share 50-50 with the Board of Ed. We have flood insurance for physical services down on Marsh Street, given where that lies in the floodplain. We have a crime policy. We have to bond the tax collector, and we have an accident and death and dismemberment policy for volunteer firefighters. So to budget this, we work with our broker and our consultant, USI, to come up with these estimates.
Questions on the insurance budget, councilors? Seeing none, Mike, next item.
Next item is Metropolitan District Commission. This is, it's two items. It's mostly the quarterly ad valorem payments that the town makes to the Metropolitan District Commission for sewer service. They set that budget in December every year. So that's just something that we assume we put that number into the budget. That's what you're seeing there is dollar for dollar what they are going to bill us. And then the other item is, sorry, I got to go to the page. The other item is we pay the sewer for the housing authority. And that's, we have budgeted $100,000. We've kind of chased that number in the last few years. It's gone up a lot. There was a lot of renovation, I think, in those units, so there was less usage. And between that and MDC rates, rate changes year to year, we kind of go on the current year, what we're paying, and try to project what that'll be for the coming year, so for the next year. So that's the basis for the $100,000.
Question on MDC?
I do have a question.
Councilor Carbone?
Thank you. I'm just curious about, you have budgeted $80,000 for the Housing Authority sewer subsidy. What have you, do you know the number of what we've paid so far up to now? Are we over that?
I do. We paid $40,000, but I know that They had a change of personnel over there at the Housing Authority, and I know this week, we just paid November through February. So that 40,000 that you'll see in the black binder
Okay,
is only through October.
okay.
So,
you
and
think
that's
it-
the basis for so we take that and we're kind of blind to, we hadn't seen those bills until just last week for November through February.
So you're just asking for $100,000 just to cover it, and if in the event that it goes higher, and if not,
Yeah, it looks like it's going to run
Fund.
close to 100 this year.
okay,
So that's why we're asking. We'll be over on that.
77.
thanks.
C-177. Council Carbone?
Good.
Okay. Anybody else? Next one, Mike?
Next item is CIP and CNEF. You've heard that, you've heard those thrown around quite a bit here. That's, in the Code of Ordinances, the council years ago, can create funds, and there's two. There's the Capital Improvement Plan Fund, and there's CNEF. CNEF is Capital Non-Recurring Expenditure Fund, which is basically, CIP is for large projects, kind of building-type projects. CNEF is for rolling stock vehicles and other equipment like that. We use that also for lease payments. We used to pay on the radio. The radio system, that ended last year, but we still have some fire trucks that we pay for. Actually, in the packet of documents that I gave you earlier, if you look at page 4, you'll see just a history of the lease payments, which is part of the request in the Capital Non-Recurring Expenditure Fund transfer. So what is this department, and the budget in this department is it's a transfer to that other fund. So if in the general fund, you're approving, I'll just use this year's request, if you were to approve the $1.9 million, we would transfer 1.1 of that to the CIP fund for specific projects, if you designate specific projects, and then we would transfer $844,000 to various projects in the Capital Non-Recurring Expenditure Fund. What that does is, because these types of projects can last longer than a year, you want to put the money in a non-lapsing fund. So the money in the general fund, the operating budget lapses at the end of the year. You can't spend, if it's unspent, it goes into fund balance and it's gone. It's not gone, but it's in reserves, and you have to budget it again. These transfers go to those projects in those non-lapsing funds, and they stay there. They stay there, so what you budgeted a year ago, if it hasn't been spent, the money that went into the Capital Improvement Fund is still there. It'll still be there after June 30th. You know, sometimes you put money aside for roof repairs or something like that. If it's not used, you want to have it. You want to maintain it so it's still there after year end. So that's what this is. So one of the tasks before you is in sections D and E of the Blue Book, there's a list of requests which exceeds what's been budgeted. So part of the task is to allocate the dollars that have been requested, or more or less, and then for particular projects. Or you could put it towards a reserve and designate it at a later point in time. But we have reserve accounts in those non-lapsing funds as well, so that there's money available. You know, that's another source of money for emergencies.
It's a very good explanation, Mike. Thank you. Questions on this? A big item for us. It's important. Anybody? Deputy Mayor Forrest.
Thanks, Mayor. Mike, I'm looking now in section D, and I saw CIP, where there was, Sally came up here, and, you know, they all ranked those. Where do I find the list of the CIP list that they made?
If you look at,
Oh, and the CIAC priority, so they're not they're in different sections, but then there's a number next to them.
Yeah, there is a number.
It's CIAC?
D12? Oh, D all of them.
Oh, so the CIAC is...
I'll get that for you. I apologize. I haven't looked at this in several weeks.
For example, like when we were talking to Sally, she had this list here, and then she had a whole bunch of equipment that was at the back of that list, and she would note that, this one's number 4 on the list, or number 7 on the list. There's
So-
a list that has all that stuff.
Yeah, it's all right. It's coming back to me. We flat funded
Celine
it.
Dion.
It's a long night.
We just flat funded, we used the same number as last year. So the request, the 1.1 million, or the number go back to that page, that's the basis for that figure. 1.1 million is just the same number as last year, at least keeping the same level philosophically. The list of projects is all in section D. The priority list from CIAC is $6 million, and then there's other, we have the multi-year plan that's several tens of millions, in total.
For the vehicles, it's section E, E2 for CNEF.
And then it's similar, yes, similar for capital non-recurring expenditure fund.
So, like, and I'm looking at
I'm so
Sally's
confused
budget,
how it
and
says
she asked, CNEF, and it's number 11. I'm going to section E,
E2.
and then there's another list there that's in numerical order.
Towards the bottom of E2, you'll see physical services request.
Oh, yeah.
And it was 11, okay. And now, on page 4, though, of your handout, you gave what I guess was also a CNEF list, but it appears to be from 2015 up until today, like a 10-year look back.
It's lease.
Yes, those are just the lease payments. So if you look on E2,
Yeah,
you'll see at the top table has the lease payments presented a little differently than my small print with the history going back to 2015. But that column that has the lines around it on my schedule
yep,
is the same number that you'll see on E2.
okay. And it looks like all the lease payments are ending next year.
Except for that last line, if you look at line 20, there's the fire engines that we purchased about 5 years ago.
Okay. And now, is there like a CNEF looking forward? Like, this is sort of the lease payments, but I remember seeing like, a 10-year lookout, like fire truck, whatever will come in like 4 years.
Yeah, physical services and fire have done things like that in the
Like
past.
police, like, 4 vehicles this year, 3 vehicles the next year. Is there?
Not quite the same way that you see for the capital projects.
Okay. So that doesn't exist, that sort of matrix?
No, not in a, I think people could put it together in fairly short order, but, most of it, and I wouldn't say comprehensive, but I think people generally know, and, some of that information's on paper, some of it's in people's heads, but,
Yeah,
yeah.
Fire has it all.
You know who has it? It's the former Deputy Mayor Mazzarelli. He
might.
knows exactly
You never
where
know.
everything is. All right, thanks a lot, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Other council questions, CIP, CNEF? Seeing none, Mike, I think, do you have one more?
I do. Next item is something we call reserve for retirees. This is our retiree medical contribution, and actually, we prepared a schedule. It's page 5 of the packet that I handed out tonight, which provides a little bit more detail than you'll find in any of the other places, but this is for a couple of things. One is it's the contribution that we make to what we call our OPEB trust. OPEB is an accounting term. Not sure why we use it, but it's not us, it's the industry. The accountants decided. OPEB means other post-employment benefits, which is primarily medical benefits. So there's a couple of categories, and you'll see them in that shaded column on page 5 that I handed out earlier. We pay about $2.4 million for retirees that are under 65. Those are mostly police officers. A lot of them have families. That's why that's as expensive as it is. And then we pay Medicare supplemental coverage for qualifying retirees who are over 65. And then you'll see, I'll just go down that column, there's a high deductible plan for the under 65s, so there's by contract, HSA contributions that we make, there's life insurance coverage, and then we do have a group of police officers who also have out-of-pocket medical expenses that are covered, and we have an administrator that handles that for us. They submit the claims to a third-party administrator, and we reimburse them for that. And then up at the top, there's just a few items. $45,000 that is a contribution that we make to a separate fund for sick leave payout. There's still some employees that qualify for that. Those can be fairly sizable, so we have a fund that we like to keep adding some money to that, to cover that. We try to pay for it out of department budgets when we can, when the number's smaller, but when it's a larger or long-time employee who's entitled to a sick payout for sick time, we would use the compensated absences fund. There's more pool money, that's for the administrative group, that's the department heads primarily. The class and compensation study, we've got $135,000 in that for the study that was done by the town manager's office to help bring pay levels in line with market, and that was Erica did an analysis of that study, and there's some proposals for making some adjustments, and that's what this provision is for, is to fund that. And then the last item in that group, the $245,000, that is for the groups, the bargaining groups, the unions that have contracts that are expiring or have already expired. We don't put the wage increase in the departments. We just lump it all in here. So that's we have 3 groups, the library workers and custodians and clerical dispatch group.
Councilors, any questions on this last item? Seeing none, Mike, thank you for taking through all that. We made it before 9 o'clock.
Thanks for wearing 19 hats.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Really.
I don't believe there's anything else for tonight, correct? So that's it for tonight. Before we take a motion to adjourn, let me remind the council and the public, we will have our last budget session workshop on Monday night, the 29th. We will have engineering back.
Last one with departments.
With departments. We have, I'll get to that. Last one with departments, we'll have engineering back. We didn't finish them last night, as you remember. We will have IT services, and we'll have the Board of Ed. And I did get a request from the superintendent, because he's been before us a couple of times. Mr. Emmett did ask if you guys have any questions that you know of, he'd love to get them in advance if you have them. Certainly, we can ask him when he comes here. He'll be sitting here just like Mike is. But that is Monday night, and then that will complete the department heads. Then May 1st, we will have, which is a Wednesday, we will have a deliberation session that's open to public meeting, where we can talk about different items as a council together. And then we have, if we need it, a second scheduled deliberation on the budget, May 9th. And then May 13th tentatively, which is a Monday, we will adopt the budget. It has to be done by May 15th. So that's our schedule for the next 2 weeks. It's still a little busy, and then it'll probably lighten up a little bit. Anything else from councilors? Take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.